What's up, guys? The Posobiec has begun. So Jack Posobiec here, host of Human Events Daily, filling in for the great Tim Pool, who hit me up this morning and said, look, I need some help. Can you come on in? I said, I'm more than happy to do so. So Tim is currently on the mend, and we'll see. Perhaps he might even be here tomorrow. So we'll see. But in the meantime, you got me. And no beanie tonight. I said, guys, I'm not doing it. The hair, it was looking a little too nice today, so I couldn't do it. But what else is looking nice? I love some of the stories that we have tonight. I'll run through them just a little bit. Trump mobilizing the National Guard across 19 states. Law enforcement, ICE, we're going to dig into this. Specialized National Guard units, CNN, of course, freaking out. We love it. Then, of course, we know we're going to get into this one, and you know we were going to get into this. Prosecuting the burning of the American flag. Is this a long-standing American bedrock tradition? Is this our freedom? We'll see. Obama appointed the judge saying that the Trump admin was forbidden from deporting Kilmar Abrego Garcia. This is just breaking news. So I hadn't even read that before we started here. So they're saying you can't get rid of him. We'll see about that. And then, of course, if we get into it, a couple other stories at the back of the end. But before we get into our guests, I want to tell you that this episode is sponsored by Boonies Skateboard. Proudly American, built right here for riders who live free and don't compromise. Boonies isn't just about skateboards, it's about spirit. The same grit and independence that built this country. Whether you're out in the streets, the suburbs, the heartland, these boards are made to last, made to ride, and made in America. Support a company that stands for freedom, durability, and the American way. Booney Skateboards, ride American, ride free. I love the uncancelable. Got the Maltese cross there. What other decks we got? What other decks we got, guys? Anything new? Let's back it up. The Declaration of Independence. You get it. It's a skate deck. You get it. And then you also have your choice, by the way. Be gay, don't be gay. It's a choice. You know, it's right there. That's the Pride collection. And it's interesting. So the question I wonder is this a message to others or is this about yourself? I don't even know. It's your choice, I suppose. And then you got the Richie Jackson, so many others. Also, the Cast Brew Coffee Club. Make sure you're checking that out. You got the 1776 signature blend from Josie Special. This is incredible. You got to power yourself, power your day. And if you're like me and you're suddenly finding yourself hosting a 3-hour show that you weren't even planning to on your kid's first day of school for that year, you're going to need some Cast Brew coffee. So Serge, light up the coffee. We got to get some. But I want to introduce our guests, and very excited to be sitting down, Andrew Wilson.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And also to disagree with your ad, no be gay. Don't be gay. don't do it.
No, there's a choice though. You could have one or the other.
Yeah, I know, but you should just make the right choice. That's all I'm saying. So, you can find me on YouTube at The Crucible. We also stream to Rumble there, and we're in the Rumble Top 10 for the Extravaganza. You can find us there every day at 5 p.m. I co-host with Jake Rattlesnake. He's been on the show as well. And you can find me on Twitter X at PaleoChristCon.
Yeah, I've seen your stuff on X, seen your stuff go viral. People have actually asked me, they said, when are you going to do something with Andrew Wilson? I said, well, we're doing it today. There we go. All right, let's go around the room.
What's up? I am Shane Cashman. I host Inverted World Live Monday through Thursdays. I go live tonight at 10 o'clock. Right after this show, I'll be running out of here at 9:40 to go host my show down the road. We will be talking about underwater UFOs, and fans of the show will know we have a caller calling in tonight who's a sergeant who knows about Mars.
Yes!
Who knows about Antarctica, and he's got a lot to say about this hostile probe that's heading towards Earth. So we'll see you guys there.
Oh,
Phil.
man. I want to see that.
Tate, what's up, dude?
What's up? Tate Brown here, holding it down. It's the new catch. I'm working that in there. We're getting there. I've been filling in the morning shows. You got to see this morning. We had an interview with Nick Sorter. It was excellent. We discussed the crackdown. We didn't know what it's a unit, squad, move. There's a lot of different words we could use, but we're going to use the crackdown nationwide. It's going to be a beautiful thing. So we're going to get into that today.
That's great. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and a counter-revolutionary. Let's jump right into it.
All right, jump writing in. Yeah, of course. So I love the CNN headline on this, by the way. So Trump signs executive order establishing specialized. You can hear the breathlessness that they're writing.
Anxiety is
National Guard units. Yeah. How many SSRIs went into this?
You know, they wanted to put stormtroopers there.
You know, they're so close to writing storm. And look at the graphic, right? Just this. Oh my gosh, look at them, just
the local
marching
Walgreens
along,
is just totally out of
like
Xanax.
Soldiers. You know, so specialized units. Specifically trained and equipped to deal with public order issues. So they're talking about specific units, specialized units of what. Okay, I understand what's in the first paragraph. I already understand what they're talking about. So specialized units. They're talking about crowd control. They're talking about crowd control units. All right, don't like just. It's so obvious that they could use, and we say this every day, but they could obviously have just said it's crowd control units. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at people who are designed. I believe, and any Army guys in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's a version of the military police. I think it's an MP designator that goes in under that, and then it's riot control basically, and who has that because they have the ones who have training for like law enforcement. They have a little bit more training in terms of how to deal with those situations. And that's what they're sending in. So specialized units. It sounds so much scarier when you say it that way. But also, and this is what they're losing their mind about, they're losing their mind that Trump is saying 19 more cities, potentially Chicago. Andrew, what do you think?
Well, I saw Newscomb, and he was going to town about this and saying that it's all a ploy by Trump in order to steal the midterm elections. And that's why they're mobilizing troops all over the place. Now, this, of course, was carryover from his massive embarrassment when his little speech got raided by ICE, which was hilarious. Right? It was hilarious. But this is what they're all upset about. The truth is that there used to be an ongoing meme that we would lose more people in Chicago in a day than we did in the Afghanistan war.
During
right?
the war on terror, I remember this.
And it's true. That's been going on. Now, people forget. Go back to when Trump gave his very first victory speech. You remember all the commentators were saying it's about strength because he said, American carnage, the days of American carnage are over. So this shouldn't be a surprise to people. Trump's been talking about doing this for a long time. He talked about doing it when he was running the first time. He talked about possibly mobilizing the military to go into these places where we're losing more people than we were in legitimate wars. So I think it's a good idea. I would like to see more troops.
I'm curious how many of the 19 cities in question, how many of them have Democrat mayors?
Probably all of them.
Yeah. I mean,
so they asked him this question in the Oval Office earlier today, and they said, are you going to be sending troops to red cities? And he just gives the reporter a look like, what red cities? Mm-hmm. Does anyone know any reds? Can we name these red cities? Have you heard of these red cities? There are no red cities. Mm-hmm. And even in some of the large cities where you may nominally have a Republican mayor or, New York's got an independent right now, like the city is still blue. It's still very, very blue. The point being is they've allowed that, blueness or whatever, the liberalism and soft on crime approach, because you have to consider the rights and the interests of the criminal actually coming before the rights of tourists, citizens, children, family, thinking about New York, but any of those people who actually have much more of a right to those streets than the criminal does.
Well, Look at like San Francisco. Look at many of these places where you have junkies in the street in a zombie-like state. You guys remember seeing all those videos?
Of course.
They're going through, they're scanning them, and these guys are just hanging there like it's like it's Night of the Living Dead.
I'm from the Philly area, and we've got a place like that called Kensington, mm-hmm. and they actually refer to it now as Kensington Beach. And you can go on Instagram and find like Kensington Beach accounts or whatever, and you can get like T-shirts that say Kensington Beach, because there are so many people laying out that it looks like they're at the beach because it looks like they're suntanning or something.
Well, let me ask you something. Don't you consider it? I know it's not constitutional treason, but in your mind, isn't it somewhat treasonous that the mayors of these cities and governors of these states essentially are soft on crime in order to placate a minority a minority group whose votes they want. It's part of them bribing the electorate, right? And so the idea that, hey, I'm going to send the military in because you won't do your job, which we saw during the California riots. I watched them every single night live, covered them on multiple cameras. We were watching them get into fights with the police, burning the squad cars, setting fires, we would call it dumpster mode, the next dumpster mode, when they would put the dumpsters up and start fighting, right? They told the police, obviously, to stand down. I mean, we were watching it. They told them, stand down, don't do anything, right? Let them do what they're doing until Trump sent in the Marines. And that put a stop to it. And their little day of rage didn't really go off as well as they had hoped because there was some military there taking care of it. And it's like, at some point, we're going to have to look at this and say, if these guys won't enforce the laws, and we're losing, 4, 6, 10, 12, 16 people a day, eventually someone's going to have to put an end to the carnage.
How much do you think that it's about the voters in the specific metropolitan areas or whatever, and versus how much do you think it's about actually placating people in a PR move? Because I feel like
it's both.
Because I feel like
it's not one's not excluding the other. The thing is Democrats work in unison for national campaign PR. You're right about that. There's no doubt about that. Mm-hmm. But you still also have your localized elections. And the truth is that they are pandering to minority groups as much as possible for lighter sentences, things like this. So they seem to want to move towards rehabilitation, even though there's no rehabilitation going on.
In Philadelphia, no matter how bad the murder rate has gotten, Larry Krasner, the Soros DA, just keeps getting reelected over and over and over. So I think this speaks to what you're saying, that it's in a very odd way of putting it, they keep voting for murder.
Wouldn't that be a lot of that have to do with outside money and outside influence, though?
Yeah, NGOs, of course. NGOs are involved.
Well, I mean, he's a Soros DA.
Yeah.
I mean, NGOs are always involved in this. You know what I mean? But the question here, what we're moving down to is this. If these people will not stop this, if these Democrats won't stop it, how does it get stopped?
Part of the reason why I asked that and I push back on the idea is just because you see so many videos coming out of D.C. where people that are actual residents that are like, this is great. I can drive around in my car with the window open in the summer and I don't feel like I'm going to get carjacked. I don't feel like blah, blah, blah. There are a lot of people that are posting these things on the internet saying, look, it's much safer. And I know that the people that are most upset about crime in an area are the people that live there. So I feel like and not that I've done any kind of surveys or deep dive on this.
This doesn't feel like pushback. This feels like you're
okay, so fine. But I just I wanted to unpack
I understand what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
What you're highlighting is that there is a disconnect between the actual experience and the interests of the citizens and the preference reflected.
Yeah, if they're getting good results from this policy, why don't they vote for this policy when they have the chance?
Well, also the people that are getting disenfranchised the most when these cities fall apart is the people in the suburbs, because those are the descendants of people that were pushed out of those cities a few decades back.
Well, I wanted to ask you, and incredible point, but I also want to ask you about your conversation with Nick Sortor. So you were talking about D.C. Mm-hmm. So obviously D.C. now, the president could do more there. It's a federal district. It's not a state. It is a federal city. So he can do more. But that being said, it'll give us, I think, some clue as to the sort of things that we might be seeing in Chicago and these other 19 cities.
Yeah. I mean, the point he made was obviously there's not a clear pathway, like, for example, to Chicago. He said something that could be a possibility to make this work would be if the Cook County Sheriff deputized federal agents. But once again, that all depends on who the sheriff is of the county. Well,
it still also comes down to, so the way I understand most of it is that it still comes down to if you're in further, so federal agents can always obviously be involved in enforcement of federal law. So if you can find a nexus, like say, I don't know, gun trafficking or something, or ATF, where they're breaking gun laws.
Yeah, interstate commerce.
Yeah. Now all of a sudden.
Well, just interstate, like the second you go interstate, it becomes federal, right?
Right.
So the second the gun leaves the border, now it's a federal crime. And now they can get involved. And so, that's one reasonable pathway. The truth is, though, is like what I saw during those riots was just the show of force calmed things way down. Not at first. At first, people wanted to make an example of it, and so they wanted to go fight with the Marines, but that didn't last very long. And it did seem like it calmed that entire order down very, very quickly. We were very disappointed, the big heyday. We all had our popcorn, we all had our beer. We were live. I was there with the audience, and we're like, this is it, boys. We're finally going to watch them get wrecked in the streets. This is going to be, and they just stood down. And it's because the Marines were there.
It was beyond that. It was like a demoralization effect because they realized, there's 3 more years of this. We're not going to stop this.
Yeah, we're not going to stop this.
Huge change from the Summer of Love where they felt like, okay, we have our foot on the gas and there's a year left.
The counter PR, like to your point, the counter PR is the progressives are going to say, these are Nazi stormtroopers who are coming in from a fascist president, and the whole idea is to seize power. They can't tell you the pathway to that, though, right? Because there is no pathway. There's no pathway to how President Trump mobilizes the guard for crime-ridden areas and then seizes control of the country. They can never tell you that part of it because they're just making it up. The truth is that this country's been riddled. Some of these places have been riddled so badly, like you said, you can't have your window open. There's places my wife won't go. She's not going to go any of those places in some of these major cities, and that's in Michigan. Chicago's not that far away. And yeah, man, they're taking people out there left and right.
Tate makes a point frequently that we're kind of a vibes-based country, like the United States really, really kind of votes and acts based on how they feel far less than actual, evidence or whatever. And I think he's right. And I think that it works both for the right and for the left. Like the left has the vibe that Donald Trump is this authoritarian. And look, anything that they can come up with that confirms their feelings or how they, their preconceived notions, they're going to say, look, this is it. This is all the, how many times have you seen someone on the left write a think piece about how bad Donald Trump is and how he's a Nazi and stuff. And it doesn't matter what the policy is. Everything confirms their preconceived notion.
Yeah, I agree with that. So you're talking about people giving into intuition over reason and logic. Yeah, I understand. But you still have to temper one of the best ways to temper that PR is with
They don't
logic.
have to do shit.
Well, they don't have to. But the appeal to the electorate is we still do have to use some sort of reason here. And I always ask progressives the same thing. Show me the path. Show me the path for how Donald Trump mobilizes the military to seize control of the country. First of all, there's no way generals would ever go for that in a million years, or commanding officers or anybody else. They're simply going in to try to do something about these crime-ridden areas, which is a thing Trump talked about in his first term on his very first speech when he said American carnage is over. He's been wanting to do this for a long time. So I don't even know what they're freaking out about.
I would even go a step further. I've been kind of talking about this thing behind the scenes. I wrote this piece not too long ago talking about how Trump is a city conservative and that city conservatives are just functionally and fundamentally different from rural conservatives. And people are saying like, are you saying they're better? No. I'm not saying anyone's better
they're
or
informed
worse.
Differently.
It's just that, they're formed differently. It's that Donald Trump and the MAGA movement, the MAGA movement was born on a golden escalator on Fifth Avenue, New York City, which is just fundamentally different than sort of the George W. Bush conservatism, which evokes this kind of, like a small town aesthetic and a pickup truck and a six pack. And those are all cool things, but they're just fundamentally different. And whereas the city conservative, it really is more law and order focused. And I actually remember Trump mentioning once. Yeah, he mentions once that it was the Freddie Gray riots back in 2015, and Melania, when they were burning Baltimore down, and Melania was watching that with him, and she said, and he'd been kind of kicking around, okay, 2016, do I want to run? He hadn't in 12, and they were watching that on TV, and her turning to him and just saying, look at this, you have to run. And it was those images of the breakdown of law and order, because in order for a city to be a city, right, in order for a city to be formed, it must be, it has to be red coded, right, at the very beginning, or else, I'm sorry, like the libs, you're not going to build a city. Like you never will. It's not going to happen. And you need to have those laws to establish that order from the chaos to begin with, or else you're just going to get chaos, which is what we have now. And so the city conservative is basically formed and activated by having all of that stolen from them, and they're fighting to get it back rather than conserving.
Yeah, but isn't what usually happens here is when they send troops or anything like this, or even feds to come in and try to put an end to carnage going on in a major city, you have small splinter cell groups like Antifa, things like this, who are NGO funded, even though we can't seem to find the NGOs. They're NGO funded. don't they go in and purposely agitate in order to make it seem like the people are really against this, the people hate this, this is really fascist and oppressive, and this, they're always trying to optically make it seem that way, even if it's really not that way.
I think it's a great point. I think you're definitely going to see an activation of Antifa groups especially in places, Portland, Seattle, probably Chicago as well. People
Seattle
forget
for sure.
too that when Kyle Rittenhouse happened, and even though that was Kenosha, they were driven up from Chicago. So that was all groups of people from Chicago that had gone to Kenosha. So there are pretty sizable and well-formed organizations still there. And unfortunately, with the exception of Georgia, which I've actually said, Governor Kemp in Georgia has done a great job of rolling these guys up. And so Georgia's the one example. You're mentioning the NGOs. They actually went after the NGOs. They went after the bundlers when they were going after that Cop City, training center they were talking about. And they rolled up all of these people that were raising money for Antifa. And yes, what a surprise. They were actually finding NGOs, quasi-legal groups that were funding all of it.
Of course.
And so that hasn't been done nationwide.
And the purpose is
you're going to see
for optics, right? And there could be something here, and I'm glad you bring this up, to kind of draw that poison out, right? Another way for us to maybe start following the money back to other NGOs who are funding these types of groups. And yes, the idea here, they are going to try to make it an optical disaster by agitating whoever comes in to enforce law and order, and make it seem like these are fascists. They're here to take your rights and beat you in the streets and things like this, when actually they're agitating the law enforcement, right?
So I agree, Andrew, with your take on it, these mayors and governors being treasonous. And that's a good reason to go into these cities and clean them up. I'm also for tactical strikes against riots, but I am uneasy cheering on military presence in these cities if it's a sustained presence. And because I'm not confident that the right's going to hold power after Trump. And I see these people weaponizing that against us once again, whether it's on J6ers or if there's a quote unquote plague happening and they want to rip you out of your homes. I was in New York in 2020 and they were trying to pass a bill where they could just rip me out of my house, So that's my only problem with something like this, is what they can do with this precedence in the future.
Well, let me ask you a question then. I understand your concern.
To your point, though, it's not just a precedent that Trump is setting, because they were doing this during COVID, right? So you already had Democrat Governor Tim Walz, was sending around stuff to enforce these lockdowns, and you can all see videos about this. So
on a state level,
right?
But Biden didn't send out the military to this degree.
He did in D.C.
In D.C., which is, I'm fine with D.C. I have no problem with D.C. because it's D.C.
Well, to just ask you a quick question, Steelman, your position.
I don't disagree with
very,
you.
very,
I'm just
very
saying,
quickly.
I think the precedent is kind of already.
You're saying, hey, look, if the military is deployed, now we have a precedent, possibly against posse comitatus, something like this. And so that could carry over to Democrat administrations, which are then used to oppress you. That's the basic position. My question to you would just be, what could you even think of as an alternative that the president could do from a law enforcement perspective to enforce any of the laws in these places where dozens of people in some cases are murdered daily?
Yeah, I know. I do want these safer cities, but I see it having to happen on a local level and making the people, unfortunately, have to vote for a better mayor, like we had in Giuliani.
But it's not happening, and the
we had it
president's
in
job is
Giuliani
to enforce the law.
Right, but we had it with Giuliani in New York City. He did clean up the city after a really bad time.
Yes.
And I was very appreciative of that, despite him sending most of those homeless.
Look what they
my
did
neck
to
of the
him.
woods. I know.
They destroyed him, and they stopped, stop, and frisk, and all of that stuff came back.
Yep.
And on top of that, they destroyed him politically after that. So
I am uncomfortable giving the president that much power in the local communities.
But see what I mean? Like,
unless it's a tactical strike.
I understand the concern, but it doesn't actually answer to the question. What's the alternative? What?
The people voting for a local.
Yeah, but how does the president affect that?
The president should. I'm saying the president should be out. But with this he's in.
So this is the one thing he can do, which is within his power to do. And if these treasonous local officials refuse to enforce the laws because they get stand-down orders from Democrats who are in the pockets of NGOs and everything else we just talked about, what else can he actually do at his disposal to stop that?
Well, yeah, if we can all agree that it is treason, and I think these governors are collapsing these places on purpose because they want to. It's a war against the country.
For sure.
if we can all get along on that, then it is a war.
Well,
I think we've been in a war without even defining.
Yeah, but we're not going to get along on that, right?
But they have already begun in some cases. When you're talking about the lack of enforcement or refusing to enforce immigration laws, we've already seen indictments against mayors.
Yeah.
And potentially you could see more of that. And I think when it comes down to this immigration law and not just refusal to follow, but even aiding and abetting, if you're someone who's done that, and it's been some smaller cases now, but I think that you could roll that out depending on what's done, right? If someone is to really cross that line.
But these guys are within their authority to do this. They're within their authority to not enforce laws or give more minimum.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If they cross the line.
Yeah, but where's the line? Like, how many dozens more need to be dead daily before we move to this line? This is what I'm saying is, like, from the president down, the president of the United States, he has access to the soldiers of the United States. He's a commander in chief, okay? And he can deploy them foreign and domestic for whatever threat comes up, for the most part. Even without an act of Congress. What else could he personally actually do? He can't actually do anything.
The framing
else.
of this is kind of ridiculous because they say, oh, Trump is doing this, Trump is sending this, Trump is sending this. It's all Trump focused. Mm-hmm. And even us doing that, what is he dealing with? He's dealing with the crime epidemic that's going on in our country right now. And ICE is dealing with the migrant crisis that is going on in our cities right now, both of which are interrelated. Funny how that works. And so
isn't it?
it's amazing, right? So our cities are overflowing. This is causing crime. There's also these transnational narco terror groups that are involved. In fact, I believe Stephen Miller mentioned earlier this morning in one of the briefings that they've as they've taken more of a look at Washington, D.C., they're even finding a direct. This is going to sound crazy, guys, but did you know that the street gangs in our cities are getting their drugs from drug cartels?
No way.
It's just go with me.
What about
slow down?
Yeah. What about
They don't go to the corner store like everyone else?
I know.
Jimmy Dore did a great piece. Everyone should go watch it, whether you like Jimmy Dore or not. He did a great piece on what's going on in D.C. and how they change the category of what crime is to make it look like crime has been going down.
Exactly.
Violent crime when it actually hasn't. And he had it's great. It's a great video. You can find it on his channel. I was just reviewing it I think 2 days ago. But what they do is you got to like with crime, it's all definitional, right?
Right.
So you just change the definition, and then you could add percentages to this other definition, which should really go in this other violent category.
Yes.
And through this, they were able to kind of show to the public, well, crime's actually decreasing. Violent crime when it's not actually decreasing at all.
Literally the plot of The Wire.
Yeah, and the entire thing is just nonsense. And so the question becomes, again, and this is the one I always come back to, and that I have never gotten a good answer on, because I don't think there is one, right? It's like, no offense to you, there's just not a good answer for this. What do you do if you have treasonous Democrats in charge of these cities and in charge of even these states who refuse to enforce the laws or add new minimums for the purposes of placating, a minority constituency, for the purpose of national PR, other than send in the troops to enforce the law? Our citizens are still suffering there. Our citizens are still getting killed.
And in fact, he is the president of all American citizens.
Yeah.
So he
has an obligation to do this, right? Like, if he doesn't have the obligation, who does?
No, and it's very clear, to your point, Shane, about what Giuliani did in New York, the broken windows, that he's obviously, who was very closely related with Giuliani at the time, that they were working together. He was obviously on the economic side, Giuliani on the law enforcement side, but they turned New York from the taxi driver in New York and Robert De Niro to this like amusement park, and specifically Times Square. And, everybody wants to go, but not that long ago, within living memory for, I would say, most people, it was not like that. And it was like that. And it became that way because
when
of
Anderson
Trump
Cooper's getting kissed on the penis by Kathy Griffin.
In Times Square, right?
Well, and you're right. I mean, you're right about that.
And so he's clearly just trying to find a way to do that in every city. It's very clear that played a huge role in his in his upbringing, in his life, and he wants to be able to do that. I think that's obvious.
Well, and I think that you bring up a legitimate concern, It is a legitimate concern. I can foresee how this could possibly come back to bite Republicans in the ass if it's the case that we set the precedent and then they're like, ha, 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 now it's being used
But
on you.
I never want to say let's not do something because, what if the left does?
Exactly.
Yeah, to that
because
point,
of
like,
blowback.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, the
You
left
still
is
have to
already
do it.
the left has already proven that they will do things that are outside
care.
of the realm of
they don't
normal.
care.
They do not care about precedent. They do not care about what. They don't even care about what's legal. They were arresting President Trump's his lawyers. So if they don't care, and then your reason to not exercise power when you have it is, oh well, the Dems will. They're going to do it anyways.
Well, come on. Their rhetoric led to Trump almost getting assassinated.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Literally.
literally tried to take him out.
Well, I'm thinking, guys, that since we are talking about what the Dems might be doing, and we're talking about riots and talking about inciting violence in cities, this could possibly lend us to segue into our next topic, which is on flag burning.
Nice.
Hard segue there. I know.
That was well done.
Thank you. Well, so here's what's interesting about this, because so they signed this new executive order this morning. President signs it, prosecuting the burning of the American flag, and people say, "Whoa! I was told the Supreme Court said that was totally cool. That's a bedrock, lifelong American value, all the way back to the founding fathers of 1989, when this agreement came down for the Supreme Court." When the ruling came down. But what's interesting is because I've actually gone through and read the executive order, which I don't think most people have, and it specifically talks about, and this is interesting, groups of foreign nationals burning the American flag as a calculated act to intimidate and threaten violence against Americans because of their nationality and place of birth. Talking about
The California riots.
right, the California riots, and American as a nationality and America as a place of birth. Yep. So we are the only country in the world where we allow foreign nationals to come in and burn our flag and say they're perfectly allowed to do this while intimidating and threatening us.
They made
So to
hybrid flags, remember?
Right.
In California, they made the hybrid flag, mixing the Mexican flag and the American flag.
Yeah.
Okay. So they've done everything possible to desecrate and demoralize the American public through flag burning, through the destruction of the symbols that we care about.
It's absolutely
and again,
demoralizing.
I don't want to hear anything about freedom of speech. These guys
well,
will tear down
well-
monuments. They tear down the Confederate flag in the South. They don't give a shit about freedom of speech. They don't care.
Yeah, they prosecute you if you do a burnout on like
Before
a pride
we-
crosswalk.
Yeah.
Wait,
So
before-
that's a totally different subject.
Wait. Before we get to all this, before we do this, which I definitely want to get to, I want to point out that people are saying, how is he getting around the Supreme Court decision, right? Isn't this just obviously incorrect? You say, but what they've done is they're saying, notwithstanding the Supreme Court's rulings on First Amendment protections, the court has never held that American flag desecration conducted in a manner that is likely to incite imminent lawless action or that is an action amounting to, quote, fighting words is constitutionally protected. So it seems like and it's just my, kind of lay reading on it. I don't think any of us are lawyers, that, let's say you buy a flag, Amazon, whatever, you bring it to your house, you decide to burn your flag in an act of protest. This wouldn't cover that. But what it would cover is all of the other instances that we're talking about.
Yeah, like them burning it in the middle of the street, starting fires in
Right.
California with the flags and things like this, which they were doing. They would just argue,
Which is also an illegal fire.
They would just argue, well, that would already fall under arson laws. Why do you need this law? Well, the thing is like, you are correct. What they're saying here is, if it's the case that we can see that you're doing this in a manner which looks like incitement, now we can get you for incitement. It's not just burning the flag anymore, right? We're going to go out. Now, this is a workaround. I agree that that's kind of what they're doing by holding up the Supreme Court decision here and saying we're going to work around it.
They actually cite it.
I don't think it goes far enough. I would like to see it repealed. If you burn the American flag in America, you need to be dealt with. It's a traitorous act. It's a treasonous act as far as I'm concerned. It's a seditious act at the very least. And I have no idea why we want to import millions of people who then go to California, make a hybrid flag, start fires, and burn our flag. It's crazy.
So you mentioned, real quick, it was demoralizing.
Yes.
Unpack that.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the main thing. So all of the flag burning with the media in front of it, this type of thing, the entirety of it is to show America's in ashes, right? They're going to get that snapshot, and they're going to put the perfect filter on it. They're going to put the perfect background there with the filter that shows the American flag burning. And the whole point of it is to say America's on fire. We're at the precipice. We're at the brink. And the whole thing is to kind of keep the country in this idea of turmoil, this consistent idea of turmoil, never-ending turmoil, never-ending color revolution. It's designed specifically to demoralize. Why do you think they hand them out? They hand them out with lighters. We were watching the California riots. People would heap garbage in the middle of the road, and a masked guy would come by, and out of his pocket, he'd pull out lighter fluid, spray the lighter fluid all over it, light it, and then walk off. Now, where the hell are these guys getting all of this? They came totally prepared to start arsonist fires, right? That's what they were prepared to do. All of it's designed to be demoralizing to the American public, and it's always been designed to be demoralizing to the public.
If you value something, you would protect it. You would enshrine that in law. I was tweeting about this earlier today. I saw some of your stuff about this. I couldn't agree more. I think that I do think that this will be a test of the Supreme Court.
Of course.
I also think that it's kind of ridiculous to say that it is a 20th century notion, a very modern notion, to think that the First Amendment covers this kind of activity. Yeah. This political expression was very well known to the founding fathers and the founding generation. Yep. They would tar and feather people, right? They knew the difference between speech and expression. As it turns out, our ancestors were not stupid. In our forefathers in this case.
I mean, honestly, they would have shot these people. Not kidding.
So
they would have.
Most of this, the understanding was most of this was left to the states.
Yeah.
This was a 10th Amendment protection. And it turns out that, by the way, pretty much, I think 48 of states at one point all had flag desecration laws. And this was totally accepted throughout pretty much all of American history right up until 1989.
Oh, they had blasphemy laws on the books.
They had blasphemy laws on the books.
Well into the 19th century they had them, yeah.
You make a great point here with symbolism, the idea of the American symbol. So I think of it this way.
Symbolism is everything.
It's like when you have it's like when you have two kids and the one, they're putting their finger really close to the other kid, and they're like, I'm not touching you.
Yeah, right.
I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. And they do it for hours, and finally the other kid just belts him.
Right.
Can you believe he did that?
I never touched him.
Can you believe he did? I never actually did anything wrong. Can you believe he? And of course, what happens is this is the same thing. The idea here is we're not doing anything wrong. Look, we're not doing anything wrong. Shove it in your face as much as possible. Say, burn down everything you love, burn down your symbols, deface them, and try to demoralize you. And you go, well, we're going to pass a law that you can't do that anymore. I can't believe that you're a totalitarian fascist.
I want to see,
like, what?
is there anyone, Serge, check out the chat. Is there anyone who disagrees?
I was
what do you think?
people in the chat saying like stuff like, oh well, it's not actually a crime. It's actually, guys, it's not actually a crime to burn the flag. Actually, did you know that it's not actually a crime to burn the flag? Which is just talking about this.
Not touching you.
This whole midwittery thing we were talking about before the show, like where it's like, yeah, okay, we know it's not a crime. Like we shouldn't be encouraging or allowing everyone to do it en masse at every protest across the country. I just see them in the chat. People like you asked about.
I definitely disagree. I don't want the flag to be burned. But it's like my last argument. I just think I just think you have that right to burn it in the street if you want. That's what Johnson was doing.
Yeah, I've got a little more nuanced take than Shane. I think that as if you've got someone with a green card or something like that, or someone that's not a citizen, then that should be grounds to revoke their green card, send them back. But personally, I think any reason that you can get to revoke green cards and send people back is fine with me. I like the idea of people being able to do it so you know who the bad guys are. Same reason that I like free speech. So people will tell you the bad things, tell you the things that will say the things.
Can you make that argument for all crime, though?
Pardon me?
Couldn't you make that argument for like?
I knew he was a murderer.
No.
Aha! There's the murderer. Look at him killing that child.
Because the reason being is because this is something that will happen at protests, something that'll happen in certain contexts. I mean,
regardless of what,
confused about who the bad guys are.
Even if
nobody's confused about who the bad guys are,
it's not always the same people burning the flag.
I think they would still do it regardless of what the law is.
To expand it to all crime is not to expand it to all crime. Really misses the point. The point is, it's fine if people want, like, I don't have a problem with people that want to, or I don't have a problem with people burning the flag, right? Because if it's their own property or whatever, I don't have a problem with it. There is a free speech argument, in my opinion. But also, I like the idea of being able to, people that actually have bad ideas and have bad motivations. I like those people feeling like they can speak out so you can identify.
But it's not always the bad people burning the flag. It could be a Marine like Smedley Butler who's against going to war and he's out there burning the flag.
Right, but the context for me is what changes.
Are Marines out there burning flags?
There have been vets burning flags for sure.
Yeah, the thing is, it's
and it doesn't mean they're Marxists. Doesn't mean they're Marxists.
I think it's a rarity. But the thing is if you have,
well, I'll steelman your argument a little bit. I think in the Vietnam War era is really when this really kicked.
Yeah, because a bunch of hippies, who again were backed by massive communist NGOs, and anybody who looks at the '60s era can see the infiltration of feminism via NGOs, via Rockefeller Foundation.
But that has nothing to do with not wanting to go to war.
Well,
and I agree with that.
Hang on. It kind of did. It was all tied in together. Okay.
Right, but it doesn't mean you're supporting feminism by not wanting to go to war.
No, I agree with that. I'm just saying that all of this was tied in as a psyop, essentially. And all I would point out is this. You don't take the most powerful symbol that you can get behind, that men have run behind. One of the most kind of like... if you look at the Iwo Jima, that statue Iwo Jima, right? The guy has the flag up, and there's
our flag is our most sacred.
There's 6
national.
I would say it should be the cross.
It's enshrined as this thing. The reason it's on the military uniform going the opposite direction is because it's supposed to emulate as a soldier's running, the flag's blowing behind him, right? It's such a powerful patriotic motivator and a powerful glue that holds society together. These people erode those things. That's what LGBTQ is always about. It's what all of this stuff is about, is the erosion of the symbols of the things that are good. And it's like, no, you can't burn them. You go to fucking jail. Good.
And the way that you can prove this test, by the way, of what you're saying, in the fact that it's not just erosion, but it's also replacement, right? So we're replacing your symbols of power, your sacred totems with ours. And so in the same token, by the same vector, you go to any lib, any leftist, and we all know what I'm going to say, but I got to say it anyway because I'm hosting the show. Is okay? Would you hold the same for an LGBT flag or one of those pride crosswalks or a trans flag, or just pick any other of your hodgepodge of flags that they all have, at any coffee shop, by the way.
Well, no, they would say,
by the way, what about
but there shouldn't be.
They would say that's a hate.
In my opinion, there shouldn't be hate crimes at all.
Of course. And they would say you should be
We
arrested.
should burn those too.
But in many states, you can't name your kid Adolf Hitler. Where are the liberals? Where are the liberals running out and saying, we demand you be able to name your child Adolf Hitler? They're nowhere.
Instead, it does roll off the tongue.
And also,
nowhere.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, also, it's like, for me, like, I'm 24, so every time in my entire life I've seen someone burn a flag, it's 1-to-1 with people that hate me. So it's like, I'm also kind of tired of protecting the rights of people that hate me, like, all the time.
I'm okay with protecting
really
the rights of people that hate me.
I'm not.
Well, it's most of this country.
After what they've done to me, I don't.
But I mean, I would even push back on the idea that it's a quote unquote right.
Depending, because how are they going to define likely to incite? Like, that can be very vague.
I mean, that's pretty much all incitement.
If you're on top of a car,
they were trying to say during Johnson, him burning the flag in public was going to incite violence. They obviously didn't. It didn't.
Yeah, but isn't that an exception? Like, most of the places you see a lot of flag burning.
I don't think
isn't there a lot of violence?
I don't think every time, but certainly a lot.
Yeah,
certainly a lot, especially when they're tearing down Confederate statues.
You would still need a test case, but even then, the incitement statute would still have a statutory definition.
I think the symbol of a flag burning is not going to automatically incite violence. I think the death cult of Marxism has rotted the brains of these people, and they'll take anything as a symbol to incite violence or as an excuse.
No, I don't disagree with that. But what I'm saying is,
why do they use that one?
It's got a specific.
Well, they use a ton. It's not the only one.
They mostly use that one.
They usually, if they touch the American flag, they hiss. They usually don't even touch it. They usually.
Well, they'll touch it to burn it. In fact, I remember in the California riots when we were watching them live, there was multiple times where they were handing these flags out where people were saying, guys, don't wave that. It's bad optics for us, right? It's going to turn people against us, making this Mexico-American flag. And they ignored them. They did it anyway. Now, I agree it was an optic eyesore, but I also think that when you have symbols in a nation that help tie that nation together, the Stars and Stripes, we have tons of songs about this, because patriotism is part of the glue. We want, if we are legitimately attacked or assaulted, for the country to come together under a symbol. That's the symbol.
We actually refer to that as the rally around the flag.
Yeah, you don't
phenomenon.
You don't burn it. You don't desecrate it. And by the way, why didn't society fall apart before this ruling? Tell me that. Well, how come people seem to be more free when you couldn't burn the flag than they do right now when you can?
What I find so strange about this is people say, "Oh, this is a bedrock right. This is a long term." No, it's not. It's that is a completely ahistorical argument to make. This was a 1989 decision by the Supreme Court.
Zoomers aren't that old.
This is exactly right. But and I've said stuff about this online, and I completely agree with you. It's the glue. It's our national symbol. This is why we take your hat off when the Star Spangled Banner is being sung. You put your hand over your heart. Yep. These are national civic rituals.
You used to, when I was a kid, you pledged your allegiance to what?
Pledge allegiance to the flag.
The flag of the United States of America.
And I think it's okay. I think it's okay to love this country and also hate the government and not be okay with the flag. Because you've been enslaved. Okay, I think you've been enslaved and destroyed by this government my whole life.
I also think
a network of undeclared wars, and it's okay. You have that right, despite it not being literally written in the First Amendment, to say screw this.
Well, I would say that.
But if it's not written, then how could then
prayer's not in there either, and automatic rifles aren't in the Second
religion
Amendment.
is in there.
Right, but it doesn't specifically say that. So they keep expanding what different interpretations throughout the years.
It doesn't say that. It just says that Congress can't make a national law that says everyone has to follow one religion.
Right. It actually doesn't say that you can ban prayer. But my point is that there's nowhere in this is kind of like when I feel like it's when Roe v. Wade was sort of read into the penumbra of the Fourth Amendment, where
it's enshrined.
It's there. It's there. Just look, it's enshrined. It's like where I'm reading this document over and over. I'm looking at the statements of the founding fathers. I don't see anything where they say, "Oh yeah, it's totally cool to burn a flag." It's so obvious.
And where is this for guns? Where is this ever for guns?
Yeah, exactly.
When do I ever see these people running out and being like, "Your right to own a machine gun shall not be infringed"? Never seen it once. I see tons of gun control. I see tons of you can't have them. I see tons of gun bans. I don't ever see them trying to enshrine that right. But somehow when it comes to the one thing that's bad behavior to demoralize the entire public, that's enshrined as an American right, and it's always been that way. Get the fuck out of here.
I don't think it's a bedrock argument. But I do think it could encroach on expression.
Saying that you're taking someone's rights away when you say burning the flag is illegal, and I say I don't think it's a right. I don't think it's ever been a right.
Yeah, I mean it's because it's like when you see in the LA riots, when you saw the Mexican flags, and you see that you're not thinking about the Mexican government, you're thinking about Mexican people. And it's the same thing with the American flag. It's like, okay, people are saying I'm protesting the government. It's like, well, that's great, but the flag represents the people. Like you're protesting
100%.
The existence of the American people. And there's a whole debate around what that identity is. But it's like, yeah, I mean, it's like you can protest the government in other ways, but the flag is something much deeper than a federal government.
You should be able to protest however you want, though, unless you're going to hurt somebody. Unless you're lighting the flag and throwing it on somebody.
But that's the whole point of this thing is they're saying it's incitement. And it's like, if
they'll
you're
say
burning,
likely to incite.
If you're saying, I hate you and your heritage and I want to attack you by burning it, I mean, that's incitement. That's
what about, like, to your point, though, what about the fact that this is new? You know, he cites 1989, right? So you're saying that all the people who came before that, who honored the flag and you weren't allowed to desecrate it, they were wrong. And they always should have been able to burn the flag if they wanted to?
Yeah.
And you don't think that's silly?
Why?
Because the press...
I think there's other ways to be demoralized.
All the men who bled and died for it, they clearly didn't want it desecrated.
Others died for you to do whatever to the flag.
No, they didn't die
Certainly.
for me
I've talked to many of them. And that's just saying...
no, I don't think soldiers went overseas to die for people's right to butt sex or to burn flags.
Well,
I just don't
you're adding butt
shit.
Sex in there. I don't agree with that at all.
Again, it's the same principle. Soldiers weren't joining the military to die for people's right to burn the American flag.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying some of them would think that they died for expression.
Yeah, but to express what?
Express their distaste, distrust,
distrust for the government, not to burn the symbol.
But look how emotional everyone's getting over it. It seems like a pretty good way to protest.
I think that's a very new kind of take on the Constitution. I think it's a very, very new read on it. I mean, I'm sure you could probably talk to people from the War on Terror veterans who believe that. But if you go back to World War II and ask any World War II,
well, that's different. Yeah, I agree. But still, Smedley Butler,
Vietnam,
decorated Purple Heart. Like the Marine,
Vietnam is probably
who wrote the book War is a Racket would probably be okay with that.
Look, more MacArthur. I'm just saying. Like the idea that this was the same idea of you can be a communist if you want to. Yeah, well, that really fucking sucked, didn't it? Because ultimately the communists started taking over all the institutions and they indoctrinate all of our kids, and it's horrible. And so, like, no, we probably should have locked them all up. We probably should have eradicated the ideology. We probably should have burned all the communist books.
We've tried it. We've tried the sort of libertarian, hey, we can be a utopia and everyone can choose their own path and everybody can, you can burn the flag or love the flag. It doesn't work.
Yeah, and
it just doesn't work.
And like the way this constitution was organized, like it worked much better when we were like a hyper homogenous people where everyone's like the same religion, same everything, same culture. It's like now we're basically an empire, and we need to start. If we want to really embrace the empire life as we've structured our country in 2025, it's like the laws do need to sort of reflect that. We need a bit more order, a bit more structured everything. Because people will just take any freedom, any inch you give them, and like with this kind of ridiculousness, and like I agree, I don't even know if it's really a right. They will seize it to just throw.
I don't think we're going to get a better future with this top-down governance. I think we'll get a better future when this country accepts Christ. I think having a moral grounding from the bottom up. I think a moral grounding from the bottom up is going to what's changed generationally, but not top-down change won't do anything.
What I think a lot of, and I had a friend, from back home who's a Republican, but not like a huge Trump person, text me earlier today and said, was asking about some of this stuff. And I do think a lot of what Trump is doing, when you talk about the crime, when you talk about the flag, when you talk about all, it's all connected, right? So it's aesthetics. It is the broken windows policy. It is this idea that we need to reset.
Yeah.
Right? We need a big public reset. And to your point, right? What can he do? Right, with the presidency, with the power that he has, well, executive orders, absolutely.
Very little.
Executive orders is absolutely something he can do. And to your point as well, what effect is it going to have? Is it the most effective thing?
Yeah, I understand, but like
it's going to be a
when
process.
you say,
but
and I agree,
need that big. Yeah. You need that. He did the same thing with the president's fitness, right? He's doing the president's fitness plan again. That's finally coming back. So all of these things are resets,
Triple H.
kind of, and really, it's back to the country that he remembers.
Yeah.
That he remembers from when he was growing up, from when he was having his formative years, how the country was. He's just going back. Even when he talks about I love when he talks about the water pressure, right?
Yeah.
And he said, well, the water pressure used to be a lot better, and he was right about that actually.
Yeah, and to your point too, it's like that's why city conservatives are so different from like rural conservatives, even suburban conservatives, because it's like Trump's neighborhood, he grew up in Queens, is an entirely different like culture, like civilization. He grew up in Jamaica Estates. Like when he was growing up, it was German and English and Scottish. Yeah. Now it's mostly South Asian. So it's like that has a really galvanizing effect. Not that, not saying other people, they don't see this. Obviously they see this as well. But yeah, for city conservatives who grew up in a place like Queens and you're 70 years old, I mean, you've seen a civilizational churn occur like on your blocks.
I agree with you when you say we need to get back to Christ. 100%, right? Ethics do come, but the problem is like ethics do come from the top down. What happened when Constantine converted to Christianity? Right? What happens when emperors convert to Christianity? There is an outflow, right? So the idea here is really simple. It's like from the top down, you do need to have elected leaders who are putting in policy which are reflective of Christian ethics. The idea of symbols, which is what the cross is, right? What if they made a law saying can't burn the cross? You say, well, you have a right to do that. Why? It's really stupid.
Cross burning is against the law in some states.
But it's actually
but
stupid.
Not for
it would actually be stupid to take
different reasons.
To take this to take this symbol, which
100%,
which gives people so much union over something, and then make it legal to destroy.
I just don't put that much power or weight into any symbol.
You put it in the cross?
I do, but like still, it's just a material object from the material world.
But even
people do whatever they want
but it's
to
not.
it.
It's a material object which has a representation of the metaphor.
Right, even if you guys are we're debating about whether the flag is covered under the First Amendment. I think it's pretty clear that as much as like Christian values is what the United States is based on, that you can't make legislation about like that. You can legislate. You can't legislate morality.
Yeah, states
can.
did. When the country was far
states
more
did.
Christian than it is now, they had blasphemy.
And I think you
laws.
can legislate morality. I think it's fine.
I don't
All
think
legislation
that, I mean,
is
that,
moral.
I think you can legislate it.
legislate anything that you start. If you start legislating morality, people are going to say, "Well, that's legislating religion." That's the argument they're going to use.
All laws
So
are
then,
morality.
Then no more murder laws, no more theft laws. No more, those are all moral laws and guidelines which are taken from Christian ethics. This idea.
Marriage laws.
Well, yeah. First of all, we can legislate morality. We do, and we should. And protecting.
That's exactly what the left has been doing with.
Yeah, good. The thing is like, I know that they're doing that. It's good that we're finally fighting back.
And it works for them to a
It's
large
good.
degree.
We can take their tactics and use them back. I'm sorry the leftists can't burn our flags anymore. That's terrible. But I'll go die for the right to do it. That's stupid. That's always been stupid. And guess what?
The argument that I'm making.
It doesn't
at all.
work. It doesn't
It's not
work.
the argument that I'm making.
Well, what's
at
the
all.
argument?
The argument that I'm making is you can't have, because of the First Amendment, you can't say, okay, we're going to legislate these religious tenets. Now, I understand the left actually has a religion when it comes to a lot of their ideology, and it actually behaves
Yes,
as a
we
religion,
can.
and so they actually
We have the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment says that if the United States government can't do it, the states prospectively can. The United States government can't make a law that says there's national religion. That's it.
I strongly
all of
feel
our
like
states,
that will be.
almost
I
all of our states
strongly
had a
feel.
religion.
Listen, I strongly feel like that will go to the Supreme Court, and the supremacy clause will come. Will kick in, and they'll say you can't do that.
You
It's
know what? A
unconstitutional.
lot of people made that same argument about Roe v. Wade. It'll go to the Supreme Court and it'll die, and it didn't. And you know what? They might repeal Obergefell. That's going to be great too.
Yeah, but
And
those are
the
different
whole merit there is
precedents,
going to be
though.
religious too.
Those are different precedents. The precedent that the Obergefell, I'm not even sure what precedent was for Obergefell, but the idea that you can pass a law that would in some way violate the First Amendment, they're gonna throw. Look, if a state decides they want to, then they can go ahead and try it and see what the Supreme Court says.
There's already been precedent in the Supreme Court for this being called a Christian nation. Right? It was what was it, Lovejoy, or I don't remember what the case was, but he literally said it's a Christian nation.
If they want to if someone wants to try it and go to the Supreme Court, then fine. Someone can try it, fine. I strongly believe the court will say no under the First
if it
Amendment.
falls under the 10th,
you cannot pass.
I think if you make the argument it falls under the 10th Amendment, that you can do some legislative things.
Well,
like
I said, I think that they would
think-
say the supremacy clause says that the First Amendment is supreme.
I do think what we're arguing about here is a little bit past each other because of what Tate said earlier, right? That the people do matter. And even to your point, Phil, the Supreme Court justices matter, and the Supreme Court justices are chosen by the president, who is chosen nominally by the people of the states, and so the people matter, and it is going to come down to the reflections of the people, and so we can get into the nitty gritty of the 10th Amendment, the supremacy clause, et cetera, but which side is going to win?
Yeah,
and that will end up being the side that has had to stack the
Part
court.
of the reason why I would say that the supremacy clause would take precedent and that the First Amendment would protect people, would prevent states from doing it, is because the conservative justices, they don't always come down where you think they're going to come down. You can reliably pick what the progressive justices are how they're going to vote, right? You can they're always going to vote in line. Sotomayor and Kagan and what's her name, Kajenti Brown Jackson, they're gonna vote the same way all the time. But you can't reliably predict the other ones.
But at the
other
same
ones,
time,
because
why you shouldn't be making this prediction.
But in the past, you could.
That's why you shouldn't be making this prediction.
This is why you should. This is why you should be making the prediction, because they're not reliably conservative, or not reliable. Like, they're not reliable at all when it comes to conservatives, because the conservative justices, or the normal justices, right? The ones that are not ideologically possessed, they're the ones that actually will think about the question at hand.
Is that in the past you could,
right?
Like this wouldn't have been something that was contested.
Many precedents for your ability to do it. And look, I do understand the idea of government overreach. I was raised on this libertarian stuff, okay? The libertarian garbage. Hey, if we overreach, they're going to use it against us. They don't give a shit. They use everything against us anyway.
I just agreed with that point earlier tonight.
Libertarians are terrible. I don't think, is there a libertarian in this room?
Yeah,
I literally just agreed with that point earlier today.
So I just say, like, no, it's a powerful symbol. and it needs to be protected. And I would like to see these people dragged off the street when they burn it, and I'd like to see their asses thrown in jail as an example for everybody else. That's what I want to see.
And this is how I feel about the people who did Operation Warp Speed and burning down cities during the riots. That was the most demoralizing thing. And a lot of those people were let out of prisons by Kamala Harris's staff and the bail money they were donating to
Absolutely.
Yeah, no J6ers in prison, those guys in prison.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, that's I was going to segue at one point, but I think the symbol argument and the effect that it has on people, especially as a dad, if you take your kids to Washington, D.C., and you come in and you want to go to a museum or something, and you walk by a group of people and you say, oh, especially if you come in Union Station, right? Union Station's where most people come to the city when they take the train, and we have to come in, and you see them right there, and that's why they do it at Union Station, by the way, all the time. And suddenly they're burning a flag. Mommy, Daddy, what are they doing? They're burning the American flag. Why isn't anyone stopping them? Mm-hmm. And then you have to sit there and try to explain to a child. I'm not saying I've done this, but you would have to sit there and then explain to the child that the flag that we teach them matters so much. Actually, there's something beyond that matters that you can't see and you can't touch, but it matters, and that's their right to burn. It falls apart.
It is insane,
and it's completely falls apart.
In my view,
it's communist
totally
reason.
Backwards. And again, I do understand the overreach argument. I get it. But there's really not balance now. There's no balance anymore. We can't really balance everybody's different priorities because
they've already legislated hate crimes for burning their flags. They've already done this.
Yeah, they'll do whatever is necessary to achieve political power while we're arguing about whether or not we should protect basic symbols.
Should we do something?
Yeah, should we do something?
Fight back? I don't know.
Yeah, we probably should.
It's like, do a burnout on a pride crosswalk. They'll yank you out of your car. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy.
That's not acceptable either, though.
What, doing a burnout on a
No, the idea that you get yanked out of your car for.
Oh.
Yeah, but unless we put in the power of law and we show that we will utilize force the same way that they're willing to, that's all they respect. All they respect in the counter is force. That's why they put their finger in your face, say, I'm not touching you, but you can't do anything about it until you smack them in the mouth. That's how it works.
And by the way, just last point on this, and we do have to segue, but there are plenty of countries around the world, including Western Europe, where there are flag burning laws. This isn't some crazy tyrannical
super draconian law.
No one's ever said this before. I mean, you could pull up the list, and then people have in the comments. Just it's country after country after country do actually criminalize this.
But just because they do it, is that okay to do it here?
Yes.
I'm not making.
I know you know that. I'm asking Jack.
In this case, yes.
Just because it's okay in other countries that that's a precedent for us to here make that law.
I'm not saying that's the only reason. I spent a long time explaining why I think it's a good reason, but I'm also pointing out that other people agree with it as well.
Yeah.
That it's not draconian.
I just think it's a weak measure, and we have way bigger things to be fighting that I wish this administration would go after, and this is like a small distraction giving you guys some fast food meals to cheer about, whereas I want to go after things that really, like, he promised to obliterate the deep state. What's happening with that?
Tulsi Gabbard just said she's firing 50% of the IC.
Yeah, I get it, but like there's big things like the Epstein files.
That's big?
I think that's big, but I think there's something beyond just that. So it's just staffers. I'm thinking,
I hear this a lot, and I understand. Trump's supposed to be going after the deep state and these.
Well, he campaigned on it.
Yeah, and these,
and there always could
these
be more
100-year
things.
positions.
Like, we only have so much time. We only have so much time.
Every single time this guy drafts legislation about anything, anytime he makes an executive order about anything, even small, to try to make some kind of change, it's his own side. The guys who want to dismantle the deep state, who go after him the hardest, who curtail and hamstring him from doing anything.
Because it was the deep state that tried assassinating him.
Pass something about a flag. What do you think he's going to do to the deep state?
Exactly. I don't think anything's going to happen.
Well, I would argue, though. I mean, I would argue that I think the difference here is that it's short term versus long term. I think these are long term plays and long term investments that are being made now. Flag burning, crime is both short term and long term. Mm-hmm. But you're also pointing out some things that, hey, we'd like to see some movement here, and here. And
midterms are on the horizon.
Midterms are certainly on the horizon.
Don't know what's going to happen in 2028.
And the point being is, if you don't have that much time, why wouldn't you want to make long-term investments?
Yeah, I do want to make long-term investments, but I hope we're actually making them. in terms of these big plays.
I think protecting the flag and setting the course of the nation for children is really important.
Okay, I want to protect the children. I don't think the flag does it.
I mean, yeah.
I think all of it was important. The two genders via executive order. I think that was important. That's a long-term investment that you're talking
100%.
about, right? Saying that America is an English-speaking country, setting the precedent that, hey, the actual language we're going to speak here is English. That's a long-term precedent, right? These are long-term investments. But the other thing is like we cannot curtail this guy every single time he tries.
Well, and a great example of that is our next story, by the way.
Smooth.
Contractually obligated to do these segues, by the way. I'm not trying to stifle conversation for the record because this is a great combo. But, every day, I'll say this, every day we get a story of something. The Trump admin is doing this. And this is a huge difference between, I would say, the second term and the first term is that this time around, they don't let things go. It's not like they get hit by the media and then they just, all right, we back off. They're deporting Kilmar Garcia, or at least trying to, and they're fighting tooth and nail for this. And I think that does set a precedent. And you could argue now. Some people might argue, "So, well, that's super short term. Why do you care so much about this one guy?" And it's not about that guy. It is about the precedent, and it's about the precedent that this guy should not be here. He should have been deported the first time. And they brought him back, which I feel a certain way about. But now they're pushing him out again, and this is the latest on it. So they were going to be deporting him to Uganda, I think, which I think is so funny. They should just like deport him to a country at random. Just have like a list of countries. You're going to one of these, right? So this is deterrence, right? And yes, we can certainly put Dr. Fauci on that list as well. Which, by the way, don't get me wrong. When you mentioned Dr. Fauci, and I don't want to sound like I'm not addressing it. President Trump talks about this all the time, that he wants to take a look at the validity of those pardons, because I don't think there's any way that anyone can seriously say that an auto pen pardon is valid. Dr. Fauci's pardon is absolutely not valid. Hunter Biden's pardon, et cetera, all the rest of them. And for the lies that Fauci did, he should absolutely have his pardon shredded.
You can also make the argument that Joe Biden was not mentally fit.
No, that's my point. That's my point.
Like, he just was not mentally fit to do any of those anyway. And I think that that's a really hard one for them to argue, considering they replaced him because he wasn't mentally fit. So it's really hard for them to argue that point.
So let me just get this update, though, on the story while we're here, because I think this happened just as we were coming up on the show, because this changed basically as I was doing the intro here. A federal judge, and this is from the great Thomas Stevenson. Go follow him, by the way, over at Post 1 because he does great work with them on a daily basis. On Monday, federal judge appointed by Obama ruled that the Trump admin is forbidden, from deporting alleged MS-13 gang member Kilmar Abrego Garcia for now. This comes as he was detained. Your Judge Paula. Oh, of course, Paula. U.S. District Judge Paula Shinnis.
Paula alone.
Blocked his deportation and said in court, the Trump admin legal team, your clients are absolutely forbidden at this juncture to remove Mr. Abrego Garcia from the continental United States. This is our understanding. Until she holds a hearing to see if he can contest the deportation order to the third country. The order comes, oh my gosh. So this is what we see. We see how the left utilizes power. They never let go. They fight back every chance they get. They say, even if there's someone even if you're an MS-13 member who was involved in trafficking other illegals, and I believe minors at one point, this guy was, it was brought up that he was trafficking. Even for that person, they will still fight back.
Well, this is it's a classic case. Like, what do you do with power when you have it? Well, first you have to have it. And we don't. And so we have to be moving more towards that. It is true that we have Trump as president, but we don't really have a right-wing entrenched establishment for power. These guys do. And this is exactly what they'll do with it. Yes, then this is exactly what they'll do with it. And they will curtail at every single turn any idea that you can remove people from the nation who aren't supposed to be here. That's their future constituency. They don't want nothing. They don't want any type of curtailing
He's going to run for mayor next. Kilmar, yeah.
Well,
Mayor
and he
of,
might
Baltimore, I
win
guess.
in one of those places.
Oh, they'll love this. Yeah, this is
Maybe
perfect.
run mayor of Kampala, Uganda. Maybe that'd be very nice. Also, I think like you could just ramp the pressure up by just keeping him in Baltimore, and he'll just self-deport after like a few weeks. I mean, like let's be honest here, and apparently he can't understand.
Or
anyone.
be dealt with via other means.
right, yeah,
The
or
whole
just
point
like
was to
yeah.
make an example, right? The whole point was to make an example.
We are deporting you to Baltimore. Just deport him to Baltimore.
Please go to Uganda,
Actually.
please.
Think about
Go to
it. Just-
Uganda.
please, let me go to Uganda.
Like the
He's
Uganda
mad at the
thing is
judge right now.
Yeah, he's like, whoa.
We'll send you to Africa if we're gonna if we can just deport you anywhere. But the whole point is to make an example.
Yeah, just put him out on the street in East Baltimore. That's it. That's it. This is your deportation.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, this could be kind of fun. You could take the migrant down Embassy Row and be like, pick where you want to go. That's a little too nice. Come on, your budget's a little too high. I don't know. Maybe South Sudan. That might be more.
You gotta pick. No, you have to be one of the ones that isn't on Embassy Road.
Yeah.
One of the ones that's like
off Broadway.
And didn't the Supreme Court
The bootleg
recently
embassies.
say that they can deport to these other countries if they want to? That the United States government can deport to Uganda if they want
Yeah,
to?
you
They,
said
like
yes.
they can just do that, right? So
Launch him.
it's this may very well get
there's
overturned very quickly.
again, going back to whether there's rights or not rights. I mean, there's basically they're saying that there's no obligation of the government to return them to their home country.
Why should there be?
And in by the way, in many of these cases, you've got people who are from even far more far-flung places in the world than just Latin America.
Yeah. But hey, let me dip into your wallet to send them back on a free luxury, airplane ride halfway across the world.
How many times is he coming back and forth now? Yeah. Like, why are we even paying for any of this? He should have been gone immediately. It's ridiculous.
His lawyer was saying that he's going to fight this. What kind of defense is there, like, possible for? Like, he's been adjudicated to being illegal, right? Like,
He admitted it, like in court.
he was picked up human trafficking, right? Like, what kind of defense could they possibly produce?
I mean, it's very obvious that this is just a wait out the clock scenario where we're going to find it's kind of like when you have a death penalty case and they just come up with any theory, anything they can find.
Time till the next administration.
And then just hold it over until a Democrat gets in or something like that, so that he's able to stay. And it's very clear they're trying to do that. So Shane, to your point earlier about short-term versus long-term, this is what happens when they're pushing for these short-term gains.
Yeah.
They still have to deal with this.
But this is great. I agree. 'Cause this guy has no rights. This guy has no rights here. This guy has no rights here. He should never have been here, and he should be launched out of here immediately.
Yeah.
Like the things I'm talking about in the previous stories have nothing. They don't apply to this guy at all. He should be launched into space.
All right, so Shane's happy now. We're
Musk
good.
should
We're
send
good.
him to Mars if I believed in Mars. But yeah.
I also like how hard we're mogging the British here because they tried the Rwanda scheme and it failed miserably. And then we're just like casually, oh, Uganda, you want some illegals? You can have a few. South Sudan, why not? You open? All right, here's a few.
Uganda
It's
needs help.
Brutal mogging.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry for the British, but we make it look easy getting.
It's not the first time we mogged them.
Let's
be real.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, and I could see people saying, why does it matter so much about this guy? And I think it shows the fight. I think it shows the new level of fight that Trump admin 2.0 is showing, where no, we're not going to give up on this one. And in fact, because you made such a big deal and the senators were flying down to El Salvador and meeting with him in, CCOT and all of this, that we're not going to let go. And we are going to make a symbol of this. And we are going to show this to everyone and set the precedent that if you are here and if you're here illegally and you're rolled up, you're going. And there's the libs do not have any power.
Well, look at what happened. You remember Alligator Alcatraz?
Sure.
Right?
How could we forget?
So the idea, like I watched the tour. It's an air-conditioned facility, right? And it's set up, this air-conditioned facility where there's fences which, divide various prisoners. Probably some of them are more violent than others, et cetera, et cetera. What's the actual problem here? Why is the
protest on
expectation
vibes.
this is going to be the Ritz?
They
Why was
protest
there
on
ever an
vibes.
expectation that this was going to be the Ritz, that this was going to be a nice hotel room for people
Right.
to kick their feet up and relax? But for some reason, that seems to be the case, that these people are like, hey.
I know, because you look at like holding cells in Sweden, and they're like, oh, they're nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what we
Exactly.
should have in America.
Have you seen the
Exactly.
original
We need to
Alcatraz?
get you on the 44th floor of this luxury hotel before we fly you back to your country. You can come break in whenever you want to. This is a precedent against that kind of stuff.
This is-
the idea of like, I didn't mean to cut it. I was just saying, this is the reason Trump is fighting this tooth and nail in the administration. He's trying to say, look, we're done with that. And by the way, this is a state-of-the-art holding facility for illegals before they go. It's fine to send them there as we're processing them out. Enough of the Ritz treatment. Enough of the you get everything you want treatment. So I think you're right on that.
Debit cards in New York City.
Yep.
Take away the hotels, give them to the illegals. Insane.
Yeah,
Totally
they give them,
insane.
like Mets tickets on the way out.
Oh,
Which
not
is
Mets.
kind of
Not
cruel
the
and unusual.
Mets.
Well, also,
Gosh, Tate.
I think summer camps produce patriots, because if you went to a summer camp, this looks fantastic. Alligator Alcatraz, like this looks wonderful. Like I remember how like horrid the conditions were, and you loved your time there. So
just on August 21st, District Judge Kathleen M. Williams has said that it has to be shut down. So it's still open, but they have significant restrictions currently, which again, it's not some kind of terrible place.
But they're going to fight that out too.
Well, I mean, and hopefully the Trump administration wins. But the point is, like, no matter what you do, the left is going to push back. And like you mentioned earlier, the institutional power is still strongly in the left's favor because of judges and stuff like that.
Well, judges, academics, the people who make studies which show the inhumane conditions of various people based on how they define it.
Super don't care.
All of that is entrenched.
I remember that. So I spent about a year at Guantanamo Bay, serving there in the military, and not on the other side of the bars. But we would have those. That it was the same deal. It was like air conditioned. The facilities were really nice. It was based on Supermax, so detainees would get whatever they wanted. They would certainly get religious specific meals and keep halal and all this. And then we would have and Red Cross was right there, International Red Cross, so they had pretty much full access all the time to the prison facilities whenever they wanted it 24/7. They had an office right there, and we would still get congressional delegations and journalists who would come in, and we would show them all this, and I would say what I just said about, hey, here's their medical group, and here's their Red Cross representative, and here's the lawyers that they get, and all of this. And they would walk out and they'd say, torture. Torture in these torture conditions. Look at the torture. They're just like, no, I just spent all day showing you torture. And it was, I'll put it this way. I kind of never believed the media to be, like, I understood the media was like liberal, I guess, but was serving there and like going through that experience with, my own eyes to just realize how much lying they do. Just straight blank lying that
for the purpose of political expediency.
For the purpose of the expediency. But I always assumed it was bad. I had no idea how blatant it was.
Do you think they just
and it's
showed
worse
up?
than that.
They just show up just to get photos? Like, why even go?
To prove that they were there.
Yeah, just to be like,
So
we were here.
They could prove they were there, and then they turn around and say, oh, and then they know, because I can't just post, pictures of the conditions for lots of legal and
It's a secret facility, and you're a soldier, and that would be illegal.
That we can't really refute anything they're saying.
Yep.
Crazy.
Okay, and John McCain did that when I was there. Actually, I got to brief him.
Well, you're right. They do blatantly lie. They lie often, and they lie constantly.
Journalists?
Yeah.
And this So this was me serving the military, and be like, wait a minute. It seems that the lies are far stronger than I realized. I thought they were merely.
But they love us.
But since we're talking about symbols today, I think Serge has our next story up, which is also important because it's a big symbol. And this is Cracker Barrel. Of course, we're getting into Cracker Barrel. People are saying, and I've seen people saying, why do you guys care so much about, again, it's symbols. It is the power of symbols. I know there's someone out there who has a famous adage, but I would flip it around. I would say feelings don't care about your facts.
So true.
And that I think people imbue symbols with meaning, because they are a representation of a greater either ideal, a greater truth, a greater nation, a greater religion. A cross is just a plus symbol, right?
It's also a way to convey a huge amount of information immediately.
Yeah. And this is what a meme is too. That meme is the same thing. So is a cross just a plus symbol that's slightly off center?
No.
Just an
And
off-center
depending
plus?
on how the cross is set, it conveys if you're this type of Christian, that type of Christian. Symbolism conveys not just this idea of like, intuition and feelings, but it conveys a significant amount of information between people, but they never have to say a word.
Precisely. And so when people say, why do you care so much about Cracker Barrel? Oh, that's boomer slop. And it's like, I get what you're saying, but I do think there's something bigger. So go back to the headline. Sorry, I don't want to hit that. So Cracker Barrel reversing course, admitting they failed with the rebrand, vow to include Uncle Herschel on the menu, store, and road signs.
Is that black?
Uncle Herschel wouldn't have wanted it anyway. Well, he is a cracker, so I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, this is really grim stuff. We staged, me and my friend Nathan Halberstadt, he was on the Culture War Friday. We actually went and staged a sit-in at the local Cracker Barrel afterwards as a form of protest. And it was a very empty Cracker Barrel, so I think the picket
yellow,
lines
by the way, for the record. He's
Yeah.
just yellow. Like,
Well,
I don't
it's
think
true.
he's one or the other.
I don't think
old
Cracker
Cracker.
Barrel is, I don't think it means that it's for everyone, right?
Yeah,
For
obviously.
For every color, creed, it's a beautiful thing, and they're trying to take that away, and it's very sad. And I agree, like people say it's boomer slop. I'm like, well, if you've been on a road trip, it does mean a little more. I mean, because like there's not these great food institutions along a road trip. It's like places like Cracker Barrel remind you of your childhood. It
Some
reminds
places you get McDonald's or Cracker Barrel.
Sure, yeah, and
Yeah, that's it.
well, Cracker
Those are
Barrel,
your
yeah,
choices.
that's fine dining when you're on the road, and it's like, yeah, it reminds you of your childhood, it reminds you of family. You know, at the rusty farm equipment everywhere, like horse castrator and whatnot. It's like it's a really beautiful thing, and they want to turn it into farmhouse chic. I mean,
Well, they turned all the McDonald's into prisons.
Yeah.
yeah,
They look
Brutalism.
they look
They're
like
awful.
farmhouse chic
all
is
of
like
them look
the,
like prisons. It's just gray
And
nasty.
gross.
I think the reason that Cracker Barrel, and we'll see what they end up actually doing with it, but I think the reason that it resonated so directly, because what's interesting is people people would say like, oh, this is woke, right? But it's not necessarily woke in the sense they're not changing it to like a rainbow color or adding things like that or changing it to like a woman or something. But we all know that it's wrong.
It's woke-ish because it's ugly.
Well,
Right?
it's
And
so
the whole, it's a war on beauty.
The
the same-
backlash wasn't
Cracker
just
Barrel's
from-
beauty.
The backlash wasn't just from people on the right, if I understand correctly.
Right.
Like,
The
there was a
Democrats
lot of
came out
people
against
on
it,
the
too.
left that were just like, this sucks.
You see it all the time when like they have these beautiful old homes and like especially millennials will come through and just gut it and paint everything white and turn it
bad.
farmhouse chic, and it's like it's not woke, it's just like sad, like you're losing something.
Well, and they make the McMansion track homes.
Yeah.
Well, I do think that it's if we're talking about symbols, what is it a symbol of? It's a symbol of the America that came before. And it's a symbol of American heritage for how we got to where we are. And so, that old America, quote unquote, versus new America or whatever you want to call it, real America versus new America is definitely the seminal moment of our time. This is our challenge. This is our fight right now. Which one is going to win out? Is it the Kilmar Garcia America who doesn't care, to even speak the language and he'll go eat whatever he wants, or is it the people or is it the people who come in there and say, oh, you know what, my grandpa had one of those. Or we were going there with my wife, who isn't even from this country.
Let me
but
ask
funny
you
enough, and
something,
she kept
though.
asking that as well.
Conspiracy hat time.
Oh.
Right? Conspiracy hat time.
You have to turn it sideways
tinfoil
to
or
say that,
tinfoil
yeah.
hat time. Do you think that this story got launched into the public consciousness purely because the name Cracker was in Cracker Barrel?
It's not the first time they tried this. Remember a few years ago, it was going around on Twitter about them trying to change the name of Cracker Barrel, and they thought it was offensive. It might even started as a meme, but then people took it seriously. It was trending for a while. So they definitely tried it before.
I was hoping that this was just one of those outrage marketing things. When I first heard it, I was that's ridiculous. Why would they? Why would they get rid of that? I do think, and we were talking about this beforehand, though, I think a bunch of us, I forget exactly who it was, that possibly the real conspiracy here isn't necessarily that they want to change the logo, but they want to change the entire business model away because they're trying to move away from sit-in dining. And a lot of places are moving
Cracker
away from
Barrels
that.
have that whole front area before you sit down and eat.
Right.
That's like a little boutique.
Like a general store.
It's the
Yeah.
pregame
Family
lobby.
friendly.
Yeah.
It's like one of the last real
It is,
family friendly
it is,
places.
But everything
by the way,
there
when
is
we go
really
there-
expensive and nobody buys shit.
When we
And
go
that's the
there,
truth.
though,
They don't buy anything there.
as a family, when we go there with kids, it's like they spend all their time there.
Yeah.
Because when you're waiting for the food to come, the kids are like, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need one of these, I need some of this stuff. And it's like, eventually they kind of wear you down.
Well, I eat at Cracker Barrels, especially when I'm on trips, and I rarely see anybody in the boutique side actually buy anything. They go through and they look.
Yeah.
You know, as they're waiting for their table, they'll look a little bit on their way out, but I don't see them buy much, and the price tag is why.
So
so I think they probably are downsizing to something which is more bean counter friendly.
Brave
You don't have to
AI,
change your
Brave
logo to
AI
do
says that it's 20% of the company's
the
total
whole
revenue.
the whole idea for a rebrand, if you're changing that whole front boutique area, is going to be what? The symbol. You want to remove the symbol so that people don't associate it anymore with, we have family fun time at the boutique, and then we play on the enormous chessboard out front, and then get in the rocking chair right
Exactly
afterwards.
what we do.
And then is when you're sitting there eating, they have Chinese checkers there for you to play, right?
The peg game.
Yeah, and the
peg
peg
game.
game.
You
and
see,
all
they
that.
made it woke. It's like a libtard version now, where they don't even
what?
they don't mock you if you like suck.
But
at
that's
the peg
not.
game.
That's
now they're
not
just like,
maybe
nice
the
try,
most-
do it again.
Nice try. No,
Yeah,
that's
I know,
terrible.
Maybe the
terrible.
most profitable model in a society that doesn't have kids.
So the Cracker Barrel's gift shop business
It's
20%.
which goes back to what you're saying about McDonald's, because McDonald's, when we were kids, I think we're all the kind of an age.
That was the
for
place,
him.
man.
You actually, that's a great question. Do you remember McDonald's being awesome as a kid?
It's always just been like the mediocre restaurant.
So you don't have that memory.
What about the
of-
experience? Like when you went there, was it exciting?
No, because
Was there a playground?
there was like one that had a play place. I remember.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Was it one of the big ones that had the massive jungle gyms with the slides and the ball pit, and there was tons
Ball
of
pit?
kids there?
No, we didn't.
Yeah. So when we were all kids,
Oh yeah, no, there was ball pits.
when we were all kids,
Once
McDonald's,
late.
it was, I want to say almost every McDonald's, unless you were like in the middle of the city, had this huge play area for kids. And the inside was designed for kids as well. So there'd be like seats constructed out of the characters, and like the Hamburglar would be like your bench that you were like
It was
sitting
fast food
on.
Disney World.
Back when they had
It was like Disney World. Yeah.
back when they had ashtrays.
That's
it was
great.
literally
Yeah,
like
the good old
Disney
days.
World
In ashtrays.
for kids.
Yeah, dude.
Oh,
With ashtrays, and
Oh, yeah.
and it was great because if you're there and if you're you're with mom or dad, then they knew they could take the kids there, and then hey, cut them loose, you go
Right.
do your thing, order the food's coming in, hey, food's here, you gotta yell at them to get off the playground. The world used to be made, or at least the country used to be made for families. And I will say, and I saw someone in the chat say, Posobiec's going to bring up Europe. I am. You know what? I am. Because going around, I spent a bunch of time in Poland this year for the election, and successful.
Wait, Polish people are smart enough to have elections?
I know, somehow. Well,
I don't
basically,
believe
it's
How many
it's-
Polish people does it take?
does it take? But they just find the one. They just find the one, and then he picks, and everyone's like, "All right, we got it." And so they still have this. Hungary's the same way. It's still very pro-family. So you see stuff for kids everywhere, and I don't just mean like in McDonald's. I mean like you could walk into like a 5-star restaurant, and the very first thing you'll see off to the side is a kids area. And they'll say, okay, well, here's an area for the kids. There's some games, there's some toys. Sometimes they even have someone like assigned to sort of watch that area. So you can go and sit at your table, right, where it's probably not great for kids, even though you have to teach restaurant manners, but we all know how that goes. And they just have these kids areas that are totally incorporated in the world. And you even see it in, you go to offices or a place where you have a waiting room. There's kids area. There's just little kids areas.
You don't
everywhere.
want to be mean to people who can't have children here. It's going to make them feel bad, which is why we need to take half of the public parks.
They should feel bad.
All the playgrounds.
Make everything sad.
Right, and you want to make sure that that you don't do anything which is too family oriented. And by the way, what if we made that a symbol, the American family? What if we made that a symbol and put it everywhere? Mom and dad with kids, and they're all of them together. Maybe that's the sign instead of my two dads. What if we made that a symbol?
Have you noticed that American cities have just become completely anti-family?
Oh,
Everywhere I
completely.
go now, and I don't
hostile.
even see families
Hostile to
anymore.
families.
It's crazy.
Well, part of the reason is because there are so few Gen Z and few millennials. Like millennials and Gen Z
Yeah.
are vanishingly small generations.
Well, we eliminated 20%.
We aborted them all.
Well,
Well,
but
yeah.
not just that. Here's the other thing to look at. This propaganda started, I would say, probably in the early 90s. It wasn't this bad in the 80s, but in the early 90s especially. And then right about the time we hit 2000, 2003, it got really bad. There's no symbols anymore of an American family anywhere. No, and we need that propaganda. We really need that
this
propaganda.
Is something, it's so funny you mention this, because this is something that I look for all the time, especially when I'm overseas, that you see it in Hungary, you see it in Poland, where they just have, and when you say propaganda, it's just like in an advertisement for Coca-Cola or even McDonald's. In those countries, they will include that. And you can look this up, foreign images of the same company, and then they won't do it in America.
This is an argument that I make all the time. Like, the left loves to say we need to center the margins, and that's a ridiculous concept. It's a ridiculous idea. We need to center families, normal families with men and women and kids, because that's what you want to encourage.
But do you know why they can't? So feminists did this. Feminists destroyed it. The idea is the entirety of the government is moving towards women going to college. Women need to go to college. They need to be educated. They need to have a fallback system for when the man inevitably screws them over, right? The truth is that those years, those college years, that's childbearing years. Yep. Those are your best childbearing years. And you're wasting them at college, and you got another 4 or 5 years after college to get your career established. You get married at 30 and you have one kid. It's the most anti-family system that you could ever have envisioned.
It's anti-human because families make more humans. So if it's an anti-family policy, it's anti-human.
Might even be unhuman.
Okay.
Now you got
over here somewhere.
So now you have what? How many women do you have coming out of colleges right now who have these useless degrees? It's always psychology, sociology, early childhood development, daycare. But useless.
And as much as I hate to say it, but as we know, that's is that really all they're doing on those campuses is studying for these degrees?
Well, they're studying a lot of penises.
No, it's Marxist boot camp.
That's the truth. The truth is that these become issues of sexual deviancy, drugs, all of that, right? They're inundated in it almost immediately. Big party culture at colleges. Nobody's going to dispute that. I mean, huge party cultures. And the entire idea is, okay, now she's gone through 10 different dudes. You know what I mean? Now she's ready to settle down. And now she's out of her girl boss phase. Oh, I got the degree, right? I got run through in college. Now I'm moving towards I want a family. And what guy wants them? What guy wants these entitled boss babes? And so anyway, that's a whole different thing. But the idea here is it is indeed an anti-family policy to try to move women towards college as a fail-safe because men are evil and are going to screw them over.
Totally. I mean, we're moving towards a future where kids are going to have grandmas who had OnlyFans. That's like maybe happening
right now,
right? Maybe happening right now.
Have great grandmas who have OnlyFans.
My grandma had more subs than yours.
Oh my goodness.
That's hell.
That is, we're in hell.
I mean, it's like, you find a picture of your grandmother when she was younger, and it's like, oh, here she is with her family, maybe a picture of her with friends. Now it's...
Wasn't Barack Obama's mom basically an OnlyFans girl?
True that. Yeah.
Wasn't she one of the first?
You're right. Yep.
And
married to a man.
To your point about, having women get into the workforce, essentially, I really think that's one of the reasons for that is because generally it makes people unhappy, and unhappy people tend to be more likely to be revolutionaries. Happy people don't protest. They don't go and become activists. Unhappy people do. And if you have a generation of unhappy people, you're more likely to have a generation of activists and protesters.
Well, there's
people
something
that will
to
destabilize the nation.
Yeah. There's something to that, but I would just reinforce the point by saying this. That women are they're much easier to propagandize
higher
than men
neuroticism.
Are. Much easier to propagandize than men are. There's a reason that they defer women into education, and they want women in control of lower education especially. And that's where indoctrination begins. And that's why when you go to a public school, it's a nightmare. And little Johnny's sitting there with his hands folded quietly, and all he wants to do is go outside and play and not do anything else in this feminized school, right? But we don't allow that.
Well, this is so. I wrote the book on humans last year, and this what we're talking about here is the entire plot of the book. It's the thesis, but the thesis is that at some level it's deliberate. The
No, it's totally deliberate.
The
at every
deconstruction, the deconstruction is the point. The destabilization is the point. That's why you have Karen Bass, for example, take this into a city level, where she was actually trained by Marxist revolutionaries out of Cuba at a young age and was in these brigades and was taking trips down to Cuba for training, and then comes up and people say, well, why is she pursuing these policies that destroy Los Angeles? That's the point. The destruction is the point. Yep. They don't actually care about the equality or the social justice or the equity or the, you're free to find your decision. No, they don't care about any of that stuff. It's actually about destroying beauty.
Yeah, and this is nothing new. Look at Hanoi Jane Fonda. Remember when she was going and hanging out with communists and she wanted to become a cultural sex symbol and this type of thing? What was she pushing? She was pushing socialist ideology as well.
Well, and here's so I'll segue into, and I think this might be our final topic before we move to Super Chats, but this talking about, messaging, talking about, the pushing of things in society. Of all places, Snoop Dogg, folks. Snoop Dogg is the one speaking out. Snoop Dogg is criticizing LGBTQ characters in children's movies, laments kids going to ask questions, said he didn't have answers when his grandson questioned a same-sex couple having a baby in a children's movie. And I think they may have, here's the line. He says, I'm going to read this. Why my grandson in the middle of the movie like Papa Snoop? How she have a baby with a woman? She a woman. O.S.
Can you read that as Snoop, actually?
I didn't come in for this, S. I just came to watch the G movie. Hey, man, watch the movie. They just said she and she had a baby. They both women. How she have a baby? The movie ain't over with. And it's like, and that's Snoop Dogg, right? He just comes out and I think things have gotten to a certain kind of point when you've got Snoop Dogg pushing back against the destabilization of culture, specifically movies intended for children.
Well, can we just finally all admit that blacks have always been pretty based on the gay issue?
They're not down. They're not down. They're not down.
They've always been pretty based on it.
The Download Brothers.
You got to look at look at what happened in California. I mean, they stopped. It was the black vote was a deciding vote against gay marriage.
What was the prop? It was where they voted against it.
Yeah. So I mean, they were the deciding vote. Look, blacks not big fans. Not big fans.
Look where Snoop is
not
today.
Allies.
Look where Snoop is today, and look where Lil Nas X is today. One's railing against this crazy stuff, and Lil Nas X is in jail.
Staggering through the street
on fentanyl.
Just naked walking.
There you go.
Who would have ever thought that the guy who put blood in his shoes was going to have a bad ending?
Yeah, the guy who danced on Satan.
Yeah, on
interesting.
Satan. Who would have thought?
It was Prop 8 in California.
Prop 8. I thought it was Prop 8.
It was a ballot initiative that amended the state constitution and then was overruled by the Supreme Court.
Of course.
Snoop actually, and people forget this, but Snoop actually performed at Trump's inauguration at one of the parties. So he performed at the Crypto Ball. I was there, so I think that counts as me seeing Snoop live.
I'm not trying to come down on Snoop, but
I'm just saying he was there.
Let us have it.
I'm not trying to come down on it, but it is now it's like a safe time to do this too, right? Like culturally. 5 years ago,
Kanye was doing this years ago.
Yeah, if he was coming out saying this kind of stuff 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, he would have been, pardon the pun, but dogpiled.
Even if he is being opportunistic, isn't that still a good sign that he's saying, "Hey, wait a minute"?
And the undercurrent in rap, even at the time, 10 years ago, they were still pretty against LGBTQ.
Yeah, but isn't that the big conspiracy theory in rap though? That like Tupac was.
Oh yeah,
it's possible.
The undercover thing is definitely. Yeah. That's not a joke, but it's not a joke in the Republican Party either, and it's not a joke, like it.
Tupac and Lindsey Graham would have been friends.
Yes, that is the case. That there's a lot of these undercovers who are around, and I'm not sure that they're any more plagued with it than any other specific community is, especially in the music industry, which is one of the most degenerate places on planet Earth. And you're in the entertainment industry, also hyper degenerate, as you know.
And this was one of the big things where. The Diddy trial, people kept, kind of wondering where, is there going to be more? Is this guy the Black Epstein? Are they going to have more, more of this coming out? And it's like nothing more really came out of that.
Bit of a flop.
It just all sort of went away. And I was like, and it reminded me, to your point about Epstein earlier, it reminded me of the Ghislaine Maxwell trial where everybody was telling me, oh, there's going to be so much that comes, there's so much that comes, and it hasn't. We should actually, this happened since, Serge, we didn't have this on the list, but Shane, I don't think Tim has had a show since this has happened. Ghislaine Maxwell transcripts have come out.
Yeah. I trust her as much as I trust the 9/11 passports.
Yeah, and it most certainly doesn't look like she's talking about that. For pardon at all.
But I'm happy to hear all this. This is great. I wanted to see people speaking, like I told you when I did your show.
Yeah,
I want to see
we were
people
chatting about it before,
on for all of us to see, because I don't trust this.
I see people in prison.
Well, that's exactly right.
Right. I would say I'll say this, and I'll put my Gitmo hat back on. Good first meeting. Right. And if that's, I certainly hope that is a series of meetings, because there's so many different things that she mentions in this transcript. Or like at one point she goes, they say, because Todd Blanche, she doesn't ask a lot of open-ended questions, but one of the open-ended questions, which is something, by the way, I like the open-ended questions better, because then they might say something that reveals themselves, versus if you give them a yes, no, it's a lot easier. Yeah. So he says at one point, did you perform any money laundering? And she goes like, well, I think you did for some cartels. And it's like, wait, pause. Can we get some follow-ups on that? Which cartels, what were we talking about here? They ask about Mossad. Did you work with Mossad? And she goes, not knowingly. Not knowingly.
You don't think that this was all pre-coached?
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of that. I'm sure there's a lot of pre-coaching. But again, that's what I'm saying, is that's why you ask the open-ended questions, because even in those cases, you do get the opportunity for the person to, to slip up. And at which point, okay, the lawyer might step in or whatever it is. But at the same time, you've got to do more, and you've got to continue.
I feel like this is just damage control at this point on my side of the aisle for Trump. I do think he could have gone down on Fifth Avenue and shot someone and still had support, but you don't protect Epstein and get support. And I think that narrative, which was crafted, is sticking to him, and is sticking to him pretty hard. And people want answers in the Epstein files, and they want them 100%.
Didn't Barr testify as well recently behind closed doors?
Barr testified as well, and some of it leaked, where he said that Trump himself was not implicated. Right. But I think that's
what leaked.
That's come out so far.
I don't think Trump's guilty or a part of it, really. I think he's probably he keeps saying he wants to protect people who are listed with this stuff. The files don't even mean much to me, honestly. It's like the files have been through so many hands in different administrations. I want to see people go to prison. I want to see them testify before the public. And
we know what happened with Prince Andrew. Why isn't he in jail?
Right. We know. Right. So when people say, "Oh, there weren't clients," like, well, what was Andrew?
Yeah.
What was Les Wexner?
How would you define that?
What was Les Wexner
and
doing?
The girl that he did that to, who went public, explained the whole racket and said that that these women were being groomed for.
Wait. So that woman, this was something that just broke, that apparently she had written a book, Virginia Giuffre, which is, even though she's died at this point under questionable circumstances.
No, she tripped and fell.
Of course. So
the Clintons did it.
I believe the book is still coming out. And
I tell people about my wife's
going to be coming out soon.
Tripped.
Well, and like Prince Andrew, it's like he just won't visit the U.S. and he's like, I'm just not interested.
Ever again.
Boring.
Like, I really want to see people be asked certain questions, like the guard in Epstein's prison who let Epstein make that final phone call. Epstein said he was calling his mom, who'd been dead for years, ended up calling Karina Shuliak, his girlfriend at the time. Like, what went down with that? Why was that allowed to happen?
The crippling part was Dan Bongino. The crippling part was when Dan Bongino was drafted into the administration. I watched Bongino. I watched his coverage of Epstein for 6 months. Okay? And when he was in the administration, and then he came out within weeks and was like, there's nothing to see here. I was like, what? Wait, what? That was not, it was not a good selling point. When they released the files and gave them to all the influencers and all of this, it was an optical nightmare.
The video.
Where's Bongino? Bongino has been remarkably quiet about all of this. And I think he knows that something's up, and he's just not really spilling the beans yet.
Epstein's alive. I guarantee you he's alive. They switched him out. I'm dead serious.
Look, I'm not the tinfoil hat guy, but his brother had his own investigation done with very credible, forensic analysis, and he doesn't think that was Epstein.
Michael Biden, I think, who did
He
JFK's
doesn't
brain.
believe the official story at all. I mean, they had their own evidence.
But his body's cremated, right?
Now it is.
Yeah.
Epstein's body.
Yeah, allegedly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Something was
No, that's
cremated.
what I'm saying. Like it's not like he could dig it up and
Now I'm not going to go as far as to say he's still alive, right? But I'm just saying it's very credible. It is very credible that the official story shouldn't really be trusted at all.
Yeah, no, I mean it's one of those situations where when you've got people, it's like we were saying, it's like the locked door, mystery, where we've got so many people wanting to know what's going on, and when you've got a level of criminality that's being discussed here that's just so heinous and so disgusting,
And at the elite level.
and involving people, Ehud Barak and Prince Andrew and heads of state and Bill Clinton, how many times to the island, and people are just not going to let go. They're just absolutely
And
not
it's
going to let
crosses
go.
administrations, where some administration.
When you sit down and say, and this is why there was such a backlash when this memo got dropped. I think it was the 4th of July or the 4th of July weekend. That that's the end. That people just freaked out. They said, "What do you mean that's the end? That is not the end." And we refuse. We refuse to.
Well, if
we
Trump
refuse
doesn't
to-
if he doesn't move on, I mean, people aren't letting this one go.
No, I don't.
And if he doesn't, if there's not something, if they don't start pushing something out, there's going to be a massive problem with his base, because I've never seen so many Trump supporters pissed off about an issue as I have about this.
It's clearly
not
the biggest
ever,
one.
never.
Clearly the biggest one.
But the polls don't say that.
CNN
Like,
said otherwise.
Oh, okay then.
Look, you're asserting that there's a lot of people that actually care about that. There are a lot of people. There are a narrow group of people that are very vocal about this.
Here's what
But
I
that doesn't
would-
mean that
here's
it
what I would-
doesn't mean that it's going to change anyone's vote.
Here's what I would.
And it's those vocal people, the influencers and things like that. They're the ones who are always the disseminator of Trump's message.
Here's what I would argue. Here's what I argue that because you're talking about the political aspect of it, the political aspect of it, and we do have to go to super chats. I'm looking at the clock. The political vulnerability that it creates is a path for an independent or even a Democrat to come in and use this issue to totally take the momentum back from all of the legitimate wins that have been put on the board.
And they are.
We put a ton on just up tonight, but it is a way for someone to sweep in and say, "Oh, but you didn't do this."
Do you
And
think
then
that
just use it as a cudgel?
Do you think that moves people? Because the argument that I've seen always retorted is like, where was all this energy for 4 years when Biden was in office?
I don't think
Democrats
a voter,
don't care
I don't
about
think a
the
voter
issue.
is gonna. I think that if you could find a Democrat that credibly rallied around this, it would be very, very politically potent. I don't know if it's enough to like save the Democrat Party or the Democrat brand, but it's way better than anything.
yeah,
they're doing.
I don't think that it could save the Democrats.
It's enough to attack the MAGA brand, though.
It's-
And the thing is that a lot of
they're going to use anything they can to.
I
attack
agree.
the MAGA
Look, I don't disagree, but some things that you attack people with, like you're saying, much more potent than others.
So it's your opinion that this sticks then, or could stick?
It is sticking. I've never
we're all
seen
still
so many
talking about it.
influencers this pissed off. I've never seen so many people in the MAGA base pissed off. Guys I talked to were supporters from day one. Even when the J6 stuff was going on, they weren't backing off an inch. They are furious about this.
Are they furious about the fact that things haven't been released? Or are
Yes.
they furious about the way that
They're
it's handled
furious
overall?
about the fact that
Because
they
the-
think,
the-
they
no, but
think
that's a
Trump's
distinction.
sitting on evidence of this, and they don't know why he won't release it. That's what they believe.
That seems.
I'm
outside
getting
the realm of possibility.
getting clocked
Jack,
out.
I'm going to
by-
say goodbye really quick because I got
You
to
gotta
run
run
on
anything.
my
Right,
show.
right.
This was a pleasure, guys. We're going to be
Wait,
live at
Shane,
10 o'clock.
Shout out the name of the show again.
Tales from the Inverted World, Inverted World Live on Rumble and YouTube, 10 o'clock. We go live, call-in show, give us a call. We're going to talk about a lot of crazy stuff, and we're going to hear from Serge and Peyton. See y'all later. Woo! Thanks, man.
bud.
Yeah, it's fun.
Love you, Shane.
Love you, man.
All right, we got to rock. Let's hit some of these super chats. We have the first one. It's a strange name. It says Likma Jonsan, and it says any episode with Poso is a good episode. # Pizza Hut nationalism. Yeah, and Pizza Hut nationalism is basically what I was talking about McDonald's. Pizza Hut used to be awesome, man.
I heard there was a big.
Wasn't it
salad
making
bar.
it great?
I remember like faint memories of a salad bar.
Yeah, there was a bit
Fuzzy.
making it great.
Making it great.
Don't even like.
You remember? Hang on. You know what? I got the best Pizza Hut one.
I don't like it because it reminds me of that commercial, and it reminds me of how good it was and how truly amazing that place was.
Wasn't it a Pizza Hut commercial at the very beginning of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Yeah, and Land Before Time.
Yeah.
They've really
Where it's like
taken
the kid in the ball game or whatever.
Right. Yeah, there was that. There was the baseball game one, and then the other one was the birthday party with the cheese and the straws.
Yeah,
it was
brilliant marketing,
and it was. I mean, just like it was basically the plot of the movie Sandlot, but it as a commercial, but it ends with a Pizza Hut visit with all the friends.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
At the beginning of a kids movie,
thing. Yeah.
Come on, just forget about it.
They've taken everything.
Forget
from
about
us.
it. They really have.
They really have.
They really have, bit by bit.
I think-
So Pizza
and they
Hut
cussed in that
nationalism.
movie too.
Right.
The TV.
All right, let's go in. Millennial Mama. I love history. I've always wanted to go to DC. Do you think it's safe enough now for a mom and daughter? Where is the best place to stay? It is safe enough now. Best place to stay. Of course, check your budget. Obviously, there's some really good options right across the river, right across the Potomac in Northern Virginia. So it's really easy to get back and forth. If you're driving, if you're taking Uber, if you go to Metro, come now, right? Come before come while this is all going on, because this is absolutely the best time to visit DC. The Boonie, Keel is saying the Boonie's able to send Rep Burchett a longboard for his birthday. The 28th Amendment board is my personal favorite. I guess we'll.
It's not the Be Gay board.
I'll pass that to the
Chet's all
the
right.
team. Hopefully not that one. Yeah.
I don't think we have any longboards though.
Yeah.
Oh wow! Did this just happen? Did Trump fired the Federal Reserve governor?
Yeah,
That just
that was an
happened,
hour
yeah.
ago,
Oh, okay. I haven't been on the. Oh, wow. Appreciate the heads up, guys. That was great.
Good work.
That was awesome. Just here, like hosting the show here. That's awesome. Good. Absolutely. Keep doing it. Use power. Always use power.
Real.
Couldn't disagree. Couldn't agree more with that. Andrew, you look like you have lost weight. Great job. Not one step back. That's
Not one step back, man.
Love that.
Stuff.
Andrew Shower is writing promo code Tane. I don't know who that is. I'm sorry. I just can't say that. Wyatt Kaldenberg.
Is it Tenet?
Could be. Rep. Kurt Walden's daughter was threatened by the FBI. They ordered him to stop investigating the FBI and Saudi San Diego connection with 9/11. Also, they did the same to the co-chair of the 9/11 committee. Wyatt, not only do I already know about that, I can confirm that because I was there in 2006 as an intern for Kurt Weldon's campaign when they raided us over these claims about his daughter being connected to Russia. It was never substantiated. It was never actually charged, but instead they did so several weeks before the election in order to swing the election to the Democrat, Joe Sestak, in a very tight race. He went on to be completely disgraced, but Kurt Weldon was somebody who absolutely called out the truth about what the U.S. knew about 9/11 and the hijackers prior to the thing actually happening. And yeah, I was right there in working on the campaign, and it was 2006. And I remember the raid. I was not there when the raid happened. I just physically wasn't there that day. But I remember coming in that afternoon. And it was like, so.
How does it work?
It's like super. It's like super early. Yeah.
Jeez.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
They go through
Papers everywhere.
everything.
Oh yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Where it was nuts, and they hit, and it wasn't just the offices that were hit. It was the family. It was his personal home. It was all this, and that was when Mueller was the FBI director, and he's been asking too many questions, and so he just did an episode on Tucker, and everyone should go check that out. And it's like why is Posobiec the way that he is? It's like, well, because of you. All right, we got any more? Do we have any Rumble rants?
Yeah, some over there. I was looking for them.
Some Rumble rants. We have a lot actually tonight.
Just want to pop out. Hold on. We'll show up one of these.
We got.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, that's kind of the same one.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's try and do this one.
I want to see. Wait. Go back to that right there. I want to see proof of life and not just support a coup on Timcast. Tim, we need proof of life. Phil, there was one comment I happened to see earlier where people were accusing you of possibly having Tim tied up in the basement.
I wouldn't bring him to my house.
Amazing.
In the closet.
Tim Pool in the closet. Yeah, no. He's going
Oh, wait,
back.
I should
in
not
the,
have
whoa,
said that.
no,
Wait,
Andrew,
wait,
no. We can cut that, right? We're not. Oh,
Don't say that.
gosh.
Don't say
Oh,
that.
man.
Over.
Now it's all over.
So over.
Note it, all burnings occur when a foreign flag or terrorist flag is being shown. So a lot of people talking about the flag burning. A lot of questions about that.
Yeah, it really makes people mad.
Yeah, I know. It's like they gaslight you. Like, no, I am offended when people burn the flag. It's okay to be offended every once in a while. Like, I am kind of offended.
Well, because
when people
because
burn
it
flags.
feels like
Just more pissed off.
I feel like you have to learn to get offended, and that you have to learn to not turn those feelings off the way they're telling you to say, oh, well, you shouldn't have that. It's okay.
Right.
It's like that's the feminine response, right?
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about earlier about like the empathetic, the fairness, and it's like, no, that's my flag.
Yeah, it's like faux stoicism. I'm like, no, I am. Yeah, I'm triggered. Yeah, it's true. Actually, I
Yeah,
don't
and
like
actually,
to see that.
and actually, there are times when it's warranted, and
Yeah.
that this does, and we can use reason
Sure.
to reason that a response is warranted. This should be against the law. Does it make our country better? Does it make our country greater? Is it a good example for children?
Yes.
Yeah, well, to arrest them, yes.
Yes. To arrest them. Yes.
Someone right here, yeah, with a super chat. The flag isn't allowed to touch the ground. Burning it is not free speech at all. It's anti-country. Of
Well, that's part of the flag code, I think, though.
It is
I
part
don't
of the
think
flag
it's
code.
law, but I think it's part of the flag code. It can't touch the ground.
Right, it's part of flag code. And,
Yeah.
and so the point is like, why do we have all of this flag code if it's not backed up by anything? Who cares?
Right.
And I'll tell you, when I was in the military, if you're on flag duty, oh my gosh, you had to be so
Aren't the
serious
balls
about
at the top of the flagpole there? They have like a razor blade and a map and a pistol or something in them.
there's certain things that I just can't
Yeah.
reveal while I'm on the show here like this. But no, there's all sorts of things like that with flags, especially on the old ships. They would have stuff like that though. And
It's like you take the razor blade, the map leads you to some spot with the pistol. So you take the razor blade and then you cut up the map and then you use the pistol on yourself rather than let the flag fall in enemy hands or something.
It's pretty base.
Yeah, it's pretty based.
yeah, someone here says he is he's a twice deployed infantry combat vet who hates the U.S. flag, says the U.S. flag is as degenerate as as gross as the rainbow flag to me. So that's someone to put in. So yeah, there's definitely a lot, and that's kind of what
I mean, he could also just be lying.
He could also be lying.
He could just be like, well, I'm a two-time combat vet, Special Forces. I went
Special Forces, Navy SEAL,
I went
top
over to
confirmed
WW-4, and like he could just be full of shit. By and large, now maybe he's not, but by and large, what I've noted that most veterans seem to have some veneration towards the flag.
Well, this is the flag that gets draped on your coffin when you pass away as a veteran, and then that flag gets folded up and handed to your spouse, right? And so it's on behalf of a grateful nation. And so if it doesn't matter, it doesn't not. And I think that if a nation exists, and we know that nations exist, and that their symbols should be protected and given, and yes, it is an extra measure of protection. Because, to the point of, well, if I would go buy a flag, can I just burn something that I own? It's like, well, in certain instances, no, actually. You can't.
Yeah, it's part of that like propositional nation crap that's all over
Get
the
arrested
place
for
now.
domestic violence for breaking your own plate.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't want to hear this shit. You could be arrested and get taken away for domestic violence for breaking your own PlayStation because you get upset. Like, it's not a joke. And so it's like, I don't want to hear any of it. It's such bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I keep hearing, I do hear some people saying that, okay, so looking in the chat, some people talking about Trump needs to go against legal immigration. He needs to fight harder against it.
Agreed.
55 million visas.
I didn't like that. There was that
55 million
comment.
visas.
They just authorized all those Chinese.
Comment about the Chinese students.
Yeah.
I don't.
600,000
I didn't love
Chinese.
that. I didn't love that.
Unacceptable.
Which, by the way, if you want to hurt the
That's how we'll beat them. We'll tear up their
if you
people.
want to go after the universities, you cut off on this. You cut down on that because foreign students have to pay full freight. So they don't get, the in-state tuition and all this. They have to pay full freight. And so this is why it comes from overseas. It typically comes from Chinese elite, CCP elite. And then you're getting them paying to the universities, which is a massive cash cow for them, these foreign students. They love it. And then, of course, that when they come to our country, what do? They're stealing research. They're stealing so much. And then they go back to their country by and large now. So why are we subsidizing or allowing these educational institutions to have the elite, the next generation of the CCP's elite come to our schools?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, there was this interesting thing people would bring up when they're talking about like Harvard, and they'd be like they're excluding Asian students. And then as a step, it's even worse is the Asians that are there, majority of them aren't Asian Americans. They're Chinese students that have come there. So it's like, even at the highest level, it's like, it's way worse than you think.
Well, and just to back to your point of it, every time you're allowing a student at one of these institutions other than an American, you're taking a spot from an American kid.
And broadly speaking, with immigration too, it's like that's a house and a job and a public school and everything. It's like someone's getting pushed out.
We actually live in a finite world. We actually live in a world that has finite resources. We don't live in. I'm sorry that the 1960s lied to you, but
what about my GDP?
My GDP go up.
GDP go up.
Number go up. Number more.
All morality is cogwheel. GDP go up.
It's cogwheel.
Cogwheel. GDP go up. That good.
Blank slate. Tabula rasa. All people are same. All people are same. Everyone can get this. I think we're pretty much winding down at this point. Let's Andrew.
One more. One more. One
more. Sorry.
Yeah, right there.
As a Timcast tradition.
Yeah.
I'm donating from the. No way. Oh my gosh.
Happens all the time.
As is Timcast tradition, I'm donating from the delivery room, holding my first son. Greatest feeling in the world. Have more babies.
We are very pro baby here at Timcast.
That's I really hope someone wasn't listening to this while she was giving birth. So does that mean that these conversations are the first thing that someone just heard?
We're talking about Cracker Barrel with
their
a baby
entire life.
It's gotta be better than hearing ah.
All right, you got one. Make more. Make more babies. Families are how we save America. Make more babies.
Yeah, true.
That's wild. We had like one of those Planet Earth documentaries on. I think.
It happens most nights. Like honestly,
That's crazy.
Most nights of the week, we'll get someone that says, "Hey, I'm here." Just carrying on the tradition. Tim sent one in when his daughter was born as well.
So I don't have that tradition, but I get a lot of people who say, "Just had my first baby last night," things like that. I'm always happy to hear that.
It's a numbers game. It's a numbers game at the end of the day. Okay, now we're going around. Andrew.
My name is Andrew Wilson, host of The Crucible. You can find that on YouTube and on Rumble. Also, you can find me on Twitter at PaleoChristCon. I guess it's Twitter X now. And you can also find me every day, Monday through Thursday, at the 5 o'clock time slot, the Rumble Top 10 for the extravaganza. I hope to see all you there.
You can find me on X and Instagram at RealTateBrown. I think Tim's going to be back soon, so I don't know how many more morning show fill-ins we'll have, but maybe we'll see me there.
One more thing to shout out that I forgot about. Sorry. It's super important, though. In November, we have DebateCon coming up, and there's still tickets available. It's going to be a massive event. I went all out. Rented out a massive bar. It's going to be awesome. So go get your tickets. You can find them on Modern Day Debate. Do it. Buy it. Get over there. It's going to be the time of your life.
Awesome.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. The band is All That Remains. You can check us out on YouTube, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Pandora, Spotify, and Deezer. Don't forget the left lane is for crime.
All right, that was good. All right, Jack Posobiec, the host of Human Events Daily. Go check us out, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We're up on Rumble. The members chat will begin in just a few minutes.